What is up, Fortnite fam, and welcome to the Play vs. Fall High School Finals, event number 3. I'm your host, Mini Miner. Joined alongside me right here is the one and only unamused Bryson. I'm so hyped today, Bryson. What about you?
You know what, Miner, I really just am incredibly excited for some of the crazy things we're going to be seeing today. I mean, we already know that these kids, they are the best of the best when it comes to, high school esports, and just being able to see what some of them are going to be able to bring to the battlefield, to the game, this gameplay we're going to be able to see is just overly exciting. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people that I am ready to watch today, and I'm ready to see how this entire tournament unfolds.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We got 6 games of trios competition today, back to normal for a lot of these teams. So it's going to be very, very exciting to see how these teams are going to perform in the finals. But of course, to get to the finals, you have a long journey to make. As you can see on the screen right now, these teams had to go through not one, but 2 qualifier events on October the 20th and October the 26th to make their way into the semifinals, which were on November the 2nd, all the way up to November the 9th. Today, the finals. It's going to be so much fun. And I mean, it's been such a long journey for these teams, Bryson. How do you feel like they're going to live up to the hype today?
I mean, today is it. Today is the finals. This is where it's all come up to. You have to be able to put in the highest quality gameplay you can today. There is no slacking, none of that stuff. These guys got to really outperform how they performed in every other tournament, because this is where it all matters. This is where the money comes down into the line, Miner.
Of course, and of course, PlayVS is here benefiting so many people in the collegiate scene, of course, enrolling right here with doing some esports and education at the same time. And of course, you can see on the screen right now, the prize pool that they are putting up for this is unbelievable. Look at that, $2,400 today for the winning trio, all the way down to 15th, which is $150. This is no small chunk of change, Bryson.
Oh, no small chunk of change, to say the least. I mean, going from 2,400 to 150. I mean, if I were in any of these kids' shoes, I would take any of that, even the 150. There's a lot of money on the line here, and especially at a young age, to be able to win something like this just from playing Fortnite. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought that something like this would ever happen? Either way, these kids deserve where they're at right now. They deserve to be here because they have put on some really high quality show these past few weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see, who we see in this top 10 situation and who's going to be kind of falling back a little bit on the leaderboard today.
Yeah, as you mentioned, getting into that top 10 is going to be so crucial. But the way you get into that top 10, of course, is through the scoring format. As we can see right here, the Victory Royale getting yourself 57 points for you and your trio, as well as each elimination being worth 2 points as well. This is a really, really interesting format. It offers a really good balance between sort of placement and elimination. So how do you feel like this is going to affect the teams going into this, Bryson?
It's going to be interesting, especially now that we're seeing eliminations being 2 points, with a lot of Fortnite tournaments, we see it being only 1 point for an elimination. So having that extra point, that's going to really change up the gameplay a little bit. Now, 57 points for a Victory Royale, that is a lot right there. Think about that, 10 eliminations with 57 points. I mean, that's 77 points just from one game, Miner. So that's a hefty amount of points to be able to grab for your team just from having one game of doing well.
Yeah, that really is a hefty amount of points, and it's going to be interesting to see which sort of strategy a lot of these teams are going to use today. Will we be seeing some high placement games and maybe mixed in with some eliminations, or will teams go for a little bit more of a W key format today and just go all out and go for some eliminations? It's going to be interesting to see. But if you're wondering who's going to be taking part today, don't worry, we've got you covered. We've got the player list right here for you. Which names here stand out to you, Bryson? Because there's some big names on the screen.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of names that stand out for me. I mean, we've got Purr's trio. We've got Dryan's trio, Fragger's trio. Dude, there is so many good players that are going to be playing today. But there are also some smaller names here that a lot of people might not know. And they're going to really use a tournament like this to really, prove that they are meant to be in the Fortnite spotlight.
Yeah, they really are. And of course, this is such a great opportunity for a lot of these teams. You can see a lot of names that you might have seen before there. Fristy, Roller Visuals, one of our more experienced teams that are taking part today. But of course, you have some names on there that you might not have heard of before as well. Maybe some newcomers into the PlayVS scene. But of course, maybe some people that have played in PlayVS tournaments before, just like Conman or people alongside him. Of course, it's going to be so exciting. And of course, this is not the final opportunity for you guys. If you did miss out on today, this is not the final opportunity. There is an opportunity for you guys to qualify and and maybe make your way onto the finals format for yourself. The enrollment for that does open on the 15th of November. That then closes on the 7th of December, so make sure you get yourself enrolled into the next trios. Of course, then the qualifiers are on the 8th of December and the 10th of December as well. So if you qualify through those qualifiers, it's going to be very exciting because you've made your way all the way to the semi-finals, which is on the 15th of December. Moving all the way to the finals, just like today, is going to be on the 17th of December. Maybe a nice little early Christmas gift for some of your friends and family if you do come out on top there. Some exciting stuff coming up, Bryson.
Oh, exactly. And who wouldn't love to be able to come first on that leaderboard right in the season of the holidays coming in? So either way, there's just a lot that's going on with PlayVS, and I'm super hyped for this next month, 2 months, and see what they do.
Yeah, there really is a lot going on. Of course, what else is a lot going on? We've got a lot going on with the new Fortnite season. Well, do I say new? It's been out for a while. It's Season 8. We know what it is. We've got the map right here. As you can see, some big changes into Season 8. So maybe highlight me a few changes here, Bryson, as to what you think could impact today's games.
One of the big impacts that I'm really looking at is these slipstreams. I mean, we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them all around the map right now. And that's going to be what really plays into a lot of the rotating that we see. With the slipstreams too, it's just not the stream, but we also have the shadow cubes, and those can get you around the map pretty fast too. And I think that's going to be a big part of today's gameplay. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. These sort of corrupted areas are going to be such a big impact in the way that these teams play. Of course, it is trios, so these teams are used to how they land, where they land and how they rotate. So it's going to be interesting to see a lot of these pinch points, because you can see a lot of these corrupted areas are outside and nearby a lot of the bigger POIs on the map. So places like Lazy Lake could be rotating into this corrupted area. We see the Misty Meadows area and even maybe Retail Row. So these sort of corrupted areas could be pinch points, and we could be seeing a lot of mid to early game engagements taking part here. And it's going to be interesting to see how these teams use that to go into the games, getting their storm surge, etc. So it's going to be very exciting to see how that plays a part in the new season.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, especially thinking about the fact, like you said, that there's some major POIs there. I mean, if you're able to dominate a major POI and take that for yourself, you already have enough loot. Now having the extra movement around you, that's going to be huge for some of these teams, Miner.
Yeah, it really is. Of course, you mentioned movement right there as well. We do, of course, still have the vehicles, the cars. We have the IO cars as well, of course, which are going to be able to get these teams around the map nice and quickly. A little bit of a danger, though, of course. If you do get a shot out, it could be a little bit of a focus and maybe a lobby focus from the rest of the teams in the lobby. But, I think it's going to be interesting to see how these teams opt to rotate. Maybe you are landing at a POI next to one of those corrupted areas, or you just want to use one of those vehicles, though, of course. But I'm pretty hyped, Bryson. I know you're pretty hyped too, but maybe you guys at home aren't quite as hyped as us. So don't worry, we've got you covered. We've got you a hype trailer right now. Let's go. Well, if that hasn't got you hyped, then I don't know what will, because that certainly has got me even more hyped going into game number 1 right now. But speaking of game number 1, I believe the battle bus is just about getting ready. It's all getting everyone loaded up. They're all carrying all of their items on with them, and of their teammates, of course, as well. But before we do get into game number 1, I want to ask you, Bryce, and I want to ask you a quick question going into this. How would you feel going into game number 1 of a finals format event like this? It's a single lobby format. What would your feelings be going into game 1?
Whew. You know what? Going into a finals mode like this, especially going into the first game, you have a lot of expectations. But one of them being is that you're really hoping that your drop spot is unconned, because that's what's really going to set you up for the entire tournament. If you're able to find a spot that gives you enough loot and you're able to keep that spot the entire tournament by yourself, then you're going to be really set up. But we might see some teams have to switch some spots if, they find out it's not working for them in the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, getting off to a good start is going to be so crucial for some of these, or for all of these teams, making sure you can dominate your off spawn if you are going into a bit of a contested drop. Maybe even you're having a bit of trouble with loot, so maybe you're going to try and switch things up a little bit, down the line, maybe game 3 or 4. This could be a very good time for that. So I'm excited to see how these teams are going to develop throughout the 6 games, of course, as well, because it's not just one game, it's not 2, it's 6 games. 6 games of grueling Fortnite action. There's plenty of times for changes and adaptations to these teams' strategies. So it's going to be very interesting, and I'm pretty hyped. You know what? I'm going to ask you a question as well, Bryson, just before we go into this, because one of my good friends, Panda, you know him very well. He asked this question going into every single game. I'm going to steal it from him. Okay, I'm just going to steal it. I'll be honest. Which do you think is going to win? Is it going to be high ground, or is it going to be low ground going into game number 1? Sorry, Panda, I've nicked it from you.
That's a tough one, because we already know that high ground is one of the best positions to be in. But there are some times where you'll see some teams that just dominate low ground. I mean, they know how to make that place their spot, especially when you have a team that has a smart IGL, they have smart tarping going on, and they're able to hit their shots. That could really play a factor here, and we might actually see low ground be what takes the cake at the end of the day. But either way, Miner, it sounds like we are dropping into our first game of the 6 games. Let's really get into the nitty-gritty of what's about to happen here, because I am more than excited to watch some awesome gameplay.
As am I. We're going right into it. Game number 1. We're seeing plenty of these trios rotating and landing their way into their drop spots. This is going to be such a crucial moment for these teams. How is things going to look? Is it going to be a contested drop for teams, or is it going to be a little bit more of an uncontested drop? As we see Bludge right here, making sure that he's looted up at Holly Hedges. It looks as though there is a team that was going to contest Holly Hedges, but I think they've gone over towards the Viking area, which is, I wouldn't say that's really enough loot for a full trio. It's going to be tough for them to sort of get that loot and maybe push over. So we could be seeing an early push from Bludge. Of course, BTB and Zed Fisher right here. I think they could go for an early push here. Be interesting to see what they do with that. And of course, landing at Holly Hedges, it has plenty of loot. Get a good amount of materials as well. It's actually a place that I really enjoy landing at myself. It's got a lot of loot. It's got some good heals as well when you can get them out of those chests. Plenty of those chest spawns, and crucially, just to the left of BTD right here, we can see the IO car. You can see the IO car just outside the house. So it'll be interesting to see how they use that to rotate here.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Holly's a good place, especially if you have somebody over at Viking, because you're able to have that high ground automatically on a team at Viking. So if you have the zone in your positioning right now, being able to push over to Viking and get some quick eliminations, or even just some quick storm surge, that's going to be something that can play heavy into the rest of your tournament, the rest of your game. But now we're over with Bryce's team, and they're over in Coral Castle. You know, a spot we don't really see a lot of these days. You know, it's one of the less talked about spots, but there's a lot at Coral Castle to offer. I mean, you have metal right outside of it with the fallen airplane. You have all the bricks, and you even have a decent amount of wood. So there's a lot of material you're able to get here, and a lot of chest spawns, a lot of floor loot. So Coral Castle is also a decent place to be able to drop for as a team.
Yeah, it really is. Of course, you do get a lot of kit right there, as you just mentioned. You do get a very good loadout. You get good materials, but also crucial, you do get those fishing spots as well, as you see Plague right now picking up a launch pad. That's going to be so crucial going into the end game. But yeah, so many fishing spots on this sort of area. It's going to be so crucial for these teams to maybe fish them up as much as they can. But I think there was some of the more downside to Coral Castle is you are almost in a bowl. You're sort of a focus for a lot of these teams, and especially in a lobby like this where there's a lot of players. I mean, there's 77 players alive. It's going to be a lot of players looking for that storm surge early on. You are often a target, you know, you're down there, you're down in the Coral Castle area, and you will be looked at for a surge potential, maybe from people from Stealthy Stronghold or you know, the surrounding areas. We hop back on board right now, though, with Hayes. We're seeing them for the first time. Looks like they got a very, very solid loadout already as well. And it looks as though Braden and co have maybe sort of decided to disengage. You mentioned this earlier about how these corrupted areas, these slipstreams could be used to rotate on out, particularly out of POIs like Misty Meadows. Maybe it looks as though they found themselves a llama as well, getting those chilly chug splashes. So that's going to be so crucial for them going into that end game. But I don't think they have any storm surge tags yet, so they definitely want to be trying to find those.
Yeah, but you know what? Having that llama, especially early game, that is vital for a lot of these teams. Having those chili splashes, that really adds to just, you know, we already see with just the regular peppers that it will add to that rotation, allows you to run faster. But having the splashes with it, I mean, that gives you a decent amount of extra health too. And you can use just one on your entire team. So that's huge for these guys to be able to pull that. And look at that. They even have multiple pads. Jump pads too, so there's a lot that these guys are going to be able to do end game, and they're not even at a major POI miner. That's what's really crazy about it. They've got all this stuff, and they're just in that slipstream area.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Of course, they do have the loot from this slipstream area. You mentioned it earlier about how a lot of these teams could be going there as a sort of POI replacement. Maybe, as you said, they maybe wanted to go to the Misty Meadows area. Maybe they spotted that llama and thought, okay, we'll just take the loot from the corrupted area instead, and we'll rotate on out, because it seems to have worked quite well for them. Minus a little bit of messel for Ghosty right here, but I think it looks as though they're set up for success already at this early stage of the game. And So there's a boat being used to try and escape from the shots of Ghost. He manages to tag for 20 right there as well. So much importance in getting these early Storm Surge tags. It allows the teams to chill. It allows them to sort of stay focused on positioning, end game. You don't have to aggress a team too late on, because when you sort of know it yourself, Bryce, and you've played, I'm sure, in these sort of lobbies, but it's very, very tough when you do have that lack of Storm Surge, having a little bit of a delay on that going into them.
Oh, exactly. And you know what? Being in a situation like that right there, I mean, they didn't have everybody with them at the moment. You know, it was only 2 of the players there. So you got to be careful in some positioning like that, because you do not want to get stuck all of a sudden being isolated from one of your team members, and then getting the rest of the team get stuck within a battle and you're kind of by yourself, or even worse, if you're by yourself and you get pulled up on a team. You got to always make sure you're hip to hip if you're playing. We're kind of looking at that right now at the map. As you can see, we have some teams surrounding each other right now that could end up having a little bit of a mid-game quarrel here. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but looks like Ghosty's team is kind of looking around. They're trying to hold the spot as they want to get some of that Storm Surge going into this end game right here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They're looking for that Storm Surge, and as we see, BTB and Co, these of course landed at Holly Hedges. They're utilizing this corrupted area as well, rotating on out, using that slipstream to make their way around this whole area as well, and there's plenty of floor loot spawns. I think that's one of the best attributes for these corrupted areas, is there's literally so many. I think at this spot alone, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's 150 floor loot spawns, which is potential for launch pads, which is potential for big pots. You have so much loot potential when rotating through one of these. As you see right there, they do have a launch pad, so it's gonna be, and there's so much loot. You can see already there's so many. I thought it was a launch pad, it was a lever action shotgun, but incredible loot from these. So even as you see this team rotating through, it's gonna yield so much potential loot right now, as we see Ghosty on the receiving end of some shots as well, having to box up on top of these sort of hills outside of the Lazy Lake area. We've seen a lot of big name teams utilize these hills very well in previous seasons. Scented, Edgy Commandment, these guys utilizing these areas so well. It allows them to get such good Storm Surge. So I'm excited to see how Proxy, Braden, and Ghosty, let's see how they can manage their Storm Surge early on as well. Because we know these end games are going to be stacked.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You know, looking at Proxy right there, he was a little split from his trio, and I think he kind of evaluated that situation and realized, like, hey, we need to link back up together, which is exactly what they're kind of doing here. They're getting more in a better positioning. But we're going all the way over to Void's team, and he's kind of, you know, he's hiding behind a tree while the rest of his guys are right behind him. They're looking for those Storm Surge shots. I mean, we've got a lot coming in here, but look at, you know, how many pads they got right now. They have a lot playing in for them when they're going to be going into this end game, and having those launch pads, that's going to be something that's huge for movement when we get into the finals here.
Yeah, it really is. And of course, now we're getting into a little bit of a mid-game engagement. Proxy's trying to get some shots on. He does. He gets the knock right there, I believe. No, he doesn't. He gets taken out. It was almost 1 HP on the opposing player. As Ghosty now tries to come in and clean things up. He can with a big 175. Can he clutch up with the rest of the eliminations right now? Though, no, he can't quite find the next one. A great elimination, though, from Ghosty to knock down one of the opposing players. Now has to clutch as a solo right now. It was Beast who went down to his yield of shot right there with a 175. Gets the finish as well. Gets the 2 points. But unfortunately for Ghosty, he does get taken out. It's Tom, it's Beast, and Kyoto coming out on top in that engagement.
He went in, weapons ablazing right there. He said, I have to at least get this elimination here. You know, Miner, he could not lose. He could not lose that elimination. He knew they weren't going to be getting any of the placement points, so they at least needed to come out with at least a few points here, and that elimination is exactly what got him that. So now we're over here with Crackley's team, and they're kind of in one of these gas station areas. And one thing we know about the gas stations is they always have the vending machines, and more than likely these vending machines will be giving out heals. And I think that's huge for the gameplay, because it's very easy for everybody on your team to be able to stack up on mini shields, and just being able to have 6 per person, that's going to add a lot. You know, you can take the 400 shots from other people, and you're going to be able to just get right back on top of that. So being able to utilize that for your games, that's going to be huge. But it looks like right now they're in a little bit of a fight, and it looks like it's a 2v2, now a 2v1 situation right here. Ooh, it might be even just a 1v1. It's going to be difficult, but unfortunately, Demo's team was not able to come out on top of that there. And we got Flucam, Slam, Bryce, and Plague taking up all the loot for themselves.
Yeah, very, very experienced trio right there. Of course, utilizing that experience very well, taking out an early team right there as well. That's so crucial for them. allows them to get that early refresh. Also, crucially as well, those Storm Surge tags, they don't necessarily have to focus on that too much now, but they do have some 3 eliminations right there, so that's 6 points going onto their tally, which is amazing. And now, we talked about it earlier, the IO cars being used on the rotates. We're seeing Chris, we're seeing Candle and Neko right now. Can they make their way into the zone untouched? Because as we've seen plenty of times before, these cars can, they do have a lot of HP. You can see it's full HP right now, 800, but at the helm of a triple spray from a trio, that can definitely deteriorate very, very quickly. And now, though, we're seeing Impacts, Madicats, and ISO. These guys are situated just outside of the Dirty Docks area, up on height as well. They find themselves, is that a Gold Crow? Yeah, they have found themselves a Gold Crow, a new introduction into Season 8 competitive Fortnite, an opportunity to get some very, very good loot. Of course, the legendary or epic variants of weapons are sometimes what those Crows can have, and now they're looking down at a fight. We're hopping on board with that fight right now. It's Noel, Skulls, and Domi right now, or Dom right here on the bottom side of this hill. They're going to be looked at from plenty of different angles, and this is where you just have to chill. You don't want to take too many risky plays, too many risky edits, because this is what can happen. You can get sprayed, as you can see them using the metal to ensure that they're not going to get absolutely beamed from another angle, because as soon as one of these teams gets a shield crack, they're going to push in. They're going to make it maybe a 3 or 4-way engagement. So absolutely crucial right now. We're seeing them being a little bit more careful. And no, right now in the inventory, we're seeing a brand new item that was introduced just today. It is the combat pistol. It's a replacement for the standard pistol going into this, and clearly for Noel right now, it's a popular choice.
Yeah, very interesting to see somebody taking one of the newer weapons, especially being introduced just today, and using it in a finals format. A lot of these players are going to try and just stick with what they know already, but clearly Knowles feels confident enough with it to take it. But regardless here, like you were saying, getting in some of these mid-game quarrels, mid-game fights is not ideal, because it's such a third-party city in these games, because so many teams will see that as you're box fighting another team or build fighting another team, and they're going to look at that as just free surge tags. And next thing you know, you're going to be down to 1 HP faster than you know it. So you got to be really careful going into the mid-game here, because you want to stay as, possible. And kind of what they're doing right now, what Yuz is doing, they're boxed up on top of here, and he's looking around. He got some nice hefty storm surge shots right there, because we do still have 70 people alive on the leaderboard, so that's a hefty amount of people going into this second zone closing. Now, it's not just enough to have storm surge, because we need 71, but still 70 minor, that is a lot of people. I mean, this end game, I can already tell, is going to be an absolute stacker.
Yeah, it really is, of course. Going into the first Storm Surge phase, they will be okay. As you mentioned, 70 players remain, but when we're getting down to the 50 and 30 player Storm Surge sort of proceedings, it's going to be very interesting to see who is going to be out on top. We're seeing Yuz, Crackly, Captain Reed. These guys are up on height, but it's all well and good being up on height, but if you're not doing anything good with it, you're not going to be able to get those tags going into the end game. And as we mentioned, maybe getting those early eliminations is what's going to come out on top, because you can sort yourself out with those tags, and of course you can make your way into that end game a little bit smoother. But Yuz already having to use a lot of his heals, as well as Crackly and Captain having to use a lot of their chug splashes right there as well. But they seem to be chilling. They seem to be up on high ground. They're looking for teams rotating in, and I think they are in the center of the zone. So we're going to see where that next zone is going to pull in just a moment, and it does. Of course, it pulls onto them. That's going to be so huge for them. They can now be able to look towards that southern side of the map to maybe get some more tags, and maybe try and find people to pick off as they're rotating in, using those vehicles as well. We can see all the way in the distance. You've got to be careful by the other teams looking, though. This is not an ideal situation if you're getting viewed, of course, from all the way up on height. You can be seen by everyone. Everyone can see what's going on, and especially when you've got field crack, it's almost impossible to relent against that fire. And now, though, Turner, it's Yol and Wish. These guys are taking a little bit of a mid-game engagement themselves. It looks as though Wish has gone down as well. It was Caroline taking out Wish right there, and now Turner is left as a duo with Yolks. They can try and clutch up right here. This is going to be such a crucial fight for them, with 0 eliminations going into the end game. The material count not looking too good either. And 40 seconds till the storm comes in. This could be a crucial refresh, or it could be the time when they fall.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Going from a team that we were just looking at, Yuz's team, as they're already just posted up right in the middle on height, and then going to a team that didn't pull a zone like Turner's team right here, they got a max haul that they're going to have to make to be able to get in, and they already have teams out there with them. So, a period like this right now might be the time for them to use one of these launch pads, just a way to kind of disengage, because really it is not worth being stuck out here for too long, because you have so many different factors that could really show up for your demise right here. You have the storm coming in. You have teams looking to rotate out. focused. I mean, look at these guys right now. They're kind of searching for some shots just on the outside as they're still on this outer part of the zone. They still have a hefty haul that they're going to have to make to get in. And, you know, we have teams already waiting, and we have teams rotating like this that can just turn around and make sure that, you know, you don't have that entrance into the circle like they do. But it looks like what I said, they decided to use one of those launch pads. That's really their best shot right now to get in fast. But you do still have to be careful with the launch pads, Miner, because it still leaves you open in the air. You know, you can't build or anything, and you're just floating in the air. And these players, we already know, they have good aim with this game. So a lot of players are going to be able to take people out easily when they're just gliding through the air.
Yeah, absolutely. A really interesting strategy to use the launch pad early on right there. Maybe they were left with no other choice as we see them rotating in. Now that we're seeing Durant, Pump, and Summer right here in this sort of outside of Dirty Docks area. They're in this smaller base, all built out of metal right now. That's absolutely crucial for them in this the seeking of not getting sort of triple spray. That's mainly what they're looking to do right now. They're on the edge of zone. If they do get focused, this is going to be the end of the game one for them. So they're all in fully built metal. They're looking very good as well. As we saw with another team earlier on, they did find themselves a llama, so getting themselves those chili chug smashes there as well, distributing the heals accordingly. So that's going to be so crucial, even if you don't have any other mobility items, as we see Tiago getting himself a launch pad from this supply drop here as well. If you don't have any mobility, those chili chug smashes can really be beneficial, especially when the zones are really small and you haven't really got too much space to move. They can really give you that extra speed boost, the advantage that you need to go on and win the match. But the next zone has revealed itself. It goes all the way down the hill. As you can see in the bottom right of your screen, there's so many teams situated up on the hill. They all have to come down, and they all have to come down pretty much now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too, looking at holding this position right here. But now they're going to have to, if they want to hold height, they're going to have to get down there fast, and they're going to have to grab it before other people, because they have a decent amount, they have a decent haul to get to where they need to go right now. And it's tough with a game like Fortnite, you know, because it's very easy to feel like you're just on top and in the best spot possible, and then bam, the next zone, all of a sudden you're in the worst spot possible, and you can never fully predict it, Miner. And that's what makes Fortnite such just a wild game, because anything can happen in these games, and you can only be so prepared before the rest of it is just luck. And if you're able to pull yourself into the right zone and be able to be in the right spot, now that's where we get, though, the impressive players that will put themselves in areas that end up not being the right zone that they wanted, but they know how to get out of it. They know how to get themselves forward, and that's what all these guys that we're seeing today are doing. They are all impressive players. They are all impressive Fortnite gamers. And to say the least, they're going to be showing us some crazy gameplay. I mean, we're already seeing it getting into that end game. For the first game right now, we still have 64 people alive, and Storm Surge has officially shown its warning. Looking right now, Impact's team is, luckily it changed to 350 above there, so they don't got to do a lot right here. They can kind of wait out. They're probably going to be fine for 30 Surge, but, you know, Storm Surge, that's going to be a deciding factor for a lot of these teams, whether or not they make it to these final zones or not.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Of course, 14 players do need to be eliminated going into this. So a lot of these teams, just like Cave right now, these guys are going to be looking for that Storm Surge without getting beamed themselves. We talked about it earlier. Leaving it too late could be the demise for a lot of these trios. And there's some great tags. We're seeing the automatic sniper being used so well and effectively well from Cave right there, getting his team 140 above because he gets a knock. That was a knock right there on one of the opposing players on the other side of zone. That's such a crucial moment for this team. It was Slicks right there who did go down to Cabe, and that was such a great play using that automatic sniper. We're going to see so many teams using that for Surge, and Cabe has used that very, very well. It's these moments in the game where these individuals need to come out on top, because you are a team. You are looking for sort of sprays together, but individual moments of brilliance like that from Cabe is what can keep you in the game and keep your team above.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? The automatic sniper, that's a weapon that when it first was released within the season, I mean, we've seen it in the past before, but a lot of people weren't excited for it. But you take a player like that and that knows how to use it, I mean, you are going to be able to dominate with it. Now, we're already seeing Storm Surge active right here with 59 people alive. 9 more people need to go down. So a lot of these teams right here, they're doing what they can to make sure that they it. But if you are a team that is good on Surge and you don't have to work, you still need to be in these moments, because you do not want to be on the end of another team that is fighting to make sure they're up on Surge, because they will do anything to get those Surge tags. And you could be posted up in a box minding your own business, and then that team comes out of nowhere that needs those Surge tags, they end up scuffing and losing, making you lose your entire game there because that is a dangerous thing in these games, and you want to make sure you're above it at all. And that's what a lot of these players that are going to be struggling to have a spot in game that allows them to get those search tags. They're going to be really looking for them right. But we're already seeing with some of the these sideways guns right here. You have the minigun. A great add to this season. I'm a big fan of it. I always was back in the day with the regular minigun, but this one can absolutely shred through people's builds, as we're seeing right now as FluCam Slam is just absolutely focusing this team. Gonna get multiple knocks here probably by just using that minigun, but look at those plays, Miner. I mean, we are seeing some crazy stuff unfold right now.
Yeah, we really are. That was very, very brave from this team. Of course, they did have the high ground. They were looking back into Storm, and I think it was, Cam who just realized down below, oh, hang on a sec, there's a team right below us. I don't think they're in too good of a spot. He identified that very, very well, dropped down at the perfect moment and gets that elimination. But now, though, Milty on the receiving end of some shots as well, maybe some miniguns to himself, but now he eventually goes down. That's Dragon taking him out. 43 players still alive, still standing in this game. So it's going to be an exciting first moving because, of course, we've talked about Storm Surge. It's going to be interesting because 13 players do need to go down before the Storm Surge is negated, as we're seeing the Storm Surge warning coming up in just a moment. It's going to be interesting to see who is going to be out on top, and on top right now it's FluCam Slam's team and Bryce and co. Those guys are all the way up on high in the commanding position in game number 1. Cam again getting his 4th, it's up nearly 5th elimination of the game just by being up on high. He's playing so well right here, using this suppressed assault rifle, not without some fire from other teams though, as the OT right now tries to get himself into zone with his team using that launch pad. A little bit of scuff from them, but they've managed to make their way across the left side of zone, which is absolutely fantastic. They are above the Storm Surge. It's falling rapidly though, so they're going to have to look for a refreshing.
Yeah, and this is one of the best times to be able to pull height right here because earlier in the game when you're on height, it's still easy for a lot of teams to focus you, but in these moments, everybody is focused on rotating and everybody below you is focusing on that tarping, those builds. They're not going to be really having the time to look up at height and be able to laser you down. So if you're able to pull that height in these moments, then you're able to get some hefty shots on people. And we're already seeing that with teams like FluCam, Plague, and Bryce. I mean, they already have 7 eliminations, mainly from just pulling this height. Look at their Storm Surge. They're high above Storm Surge right now, almost 1,400. They really, all they got to do is just rain down, maybe just using this minigun like we're seeing, and they're just going to start picking up knocks and eliminate their elimination just by being able to hold this height play right here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It'd be interesting to see if any of them do have one of those harpoon devices as well, of course, enabling you to get those refreshes whilst being up on high, not risking dropping down and potentially risking your life going for some refreshes, because that is what separates the good height teams from the not so good height teams. Those that can keep height, they can keep alive on there, they can keep going, they're not going to run out of steam with running out of materials, and that's what's going to be the deciding point for FluCam Slam and his team in trying to go in to win this game, as it looks as though he nearly gets another knock, but there's so many players at the back of zone. He's just raining down fire with that sideways minigun. When it goes into that overdrive power, it really can pack a punch, and we're seeing that in full effect right now, dropping some materials for his teammate as everyone down below battling it out. It's all going crazy. We're seeing K's going down in the feet to Carve. There's plenty more people to go down as well, Captain as well, but FluCam Slam and Co, they've kept height so well, and they're spraying down. They have 7 eliminations as well, so they should be able to ride this out all the way up until maybe a top 3, maybe a top 5 if they do run out of steam. But now though, the pads are coming out, and that's where they got to be careful.
Yeah, you got to be watching above you, especially with the shadow floppers nowadays. I don't know if you've been seeing it, but a lot of teams are utilizing those shadow floppers to be able to take that with the launch pad, and then they'll put them way up in the air, and then you may not know it, but faster than you realize, you'll be on height, and then somebody will just pop right on you because they were just floating in the air because of the shadow floppers. A really big way of rotating these games, but going into this final zone, the 9th zone right there, as it closes to be only the zone, only the Storm here, these teams got to really make sure they hold their own. There's still 19 people left. Plague, Slam, and Bryce, they're still looking for as many eliminations as possible. They're still only at 7, which they were at just a few zones ago, so it's been a little bit tougher for them to be able to, execute some of these plays that they're trying to have, but still, just being able to hold height like this, and being able to hold height a few above, and not really have anybody too close with them to try and take it from them, that's going to be big for them. But we still do see teams like Dom down here and Beast's team as they're trying to, rotate through, using some of this tarping with their material, but they got to be careful because it's very easy to get stuck up on a it's very easy to accidentally get into somebody else's tarp, and you can be taken out fast doing this. So, you know, you're a lot closer together here. A lot more can happen. You just gotta be a lot more careful.
Yeah, you really do. And a lot of these teams right now will be thinking about the heal-off potential. What heals do we have? And that's a great knock from Rocket as he finds another angle for the left side. That's Coyote right there going down. He does have the 3 medkits, so such an important aspect of this later stage of the end game, because who's going to go for the heal-off? This is where it's going to be decided. Do not mess up that medkit. Take a tick in Storm, because if you only do have the medkits, that is your only option and potentially winning this game. If you're down on low like this team are, you can't really go for too much height, and this is a tough one for him because he's got to go all the way into this sort of underground area as Flukam Sam left on as a duo right now. Bryce, of course, going down. It looks as though they did pick up another couple of eliminations, so they do have 10 in total right now. What a shot, though, from Flukam Slam, as another player is Dragon trying to make his way up onto high. That's going to keep him afloat for just a few moments as Rocket, we saw him doing the medkit play earlier. Is it going to be enough to clutch them up the victory royale? It might just be. It is. They've done it. They have done it. It's the medkit play. Flukam Slam and Co. They picked up so many eliminations, but it wasn't enough for them to win the game.
What did I say, Miner? The low ground plays, you know, it's really, this is something you don't expect, but you see it a lot. You see these low ground plays that don't end up taking height within the game, end up coming up on top. You know, Flukam's team, they did phenomenal that game, but they still weren't able to execute and get that final victory royale, as we saw with the lower ground team. And they were overall able to finally get that, you know, those 57 points added on with just their extra eliminations that they had with it.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll still be pleased with that. It was almost polar opposites. We had a low elimination, low grand team versus a high elimination, high grand team. Low grand coming out on top in the end, but for Flu, Cam, Slam, and Co, they absolutely popped off. We saw this with that minigun, absolutely doing some great damage early on as well. Not being able to clutch up the victory, but a second place in game 1 is going to be so crucial for their success today.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're totally fine with being able to take that second place. I mean, that's going to still put them pretty high up there on the leaderboard. That's going to keep them a spot. But now we're going to have to really see them be able to hold that through the rest of this tournament. You know, you can have one good game, Miner, but that could mean nothing if the rest of your 5 games are just poor and you don't do well with them. So they got to make sure they keep that momentum and they keep it going throughout these next 5 games here. And if they do that, then they're going to be walking away with a decent amount of money tonight.
Yeah, that is true. Of course, we're going to be seeing them hopefully keep up that consistency throughout the whole day today. And it's going to be interesting to see how they can do that, because going for high is very much a situational based thing. You won't see too many teams keep high and hold it every single game. So this is the moment right now where teams are sort of a little bit more streetwise as to what's going on. They're thinking, okay, game number 1 is out of the way. I know what's going on. My team knows what's going on. So maybe we switch up a few things going into game number 2, because it's going to be interesting to see that, isn't it, Bryson?
Oh, it really is. And you know, one thing we really talked about at the beginning here, Miner, is we talked about the slipstream areas. You know, that was a big part of our earlier discussion. And what did we see? We saw a lot of teams this game.
Yeah, we really did. And it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to use that in the future games. But before we do go on into that, we're going to hop into a break and stick around. We're going to come back for game number 2 and the leaderboard.
Set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. Y'all can find out, you on timeout. You been dealing with the devil, where you sign at? Yeah, oh Lord, you getting financed. Me, I'm talking ownership, baby, that's where my mind at. Try that, yeah, me, I threw my money down. And you know that it's good, we can skip the run around. And I don't need no yes, man, I'm all the way down. Yo, and I am not for sale, that's in case you couldn't tell, but y'all know better now. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. Real life better than the internet. Keep what you been selling, I ain't into that. We are doing business, this is simple math. I invest, you know I get it back, you believe that? Yeah. They asking what the fame like, tell them hang tight. Let me holler when the pay right, put that on my damn life. You know I'm the man, right? Show them what the plan like, but y'all look slow, don't understand right, yeah. So tell me how you feel, baby, cause I've been working on the way up to a meal, baby. Yeah, man of the year, how I feel lately. You know the deal, baby, you know the drill, yeah, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah, man, I'm on my way, yeah, and I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way, said I'm on my way. free or give me death, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man. I'm on my way. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man. I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man. I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way.
What is up, Fortnite fan? Welcome back to the Play vs. 4 High School Finals event number 3. I'm your host, Minimana, joined alongside unamused Bryson today. It's going to be so much fun to see how this plays out. We've already seen game number 1, Bryson. How do you think it went, and what are we going to see in game number 2?
Oh, it was crazy to see how it went, especially with some of our predictions. You know, we really expected to see a lot of these people, especially when they're on height, to be able to dominate, which they did, but we still saw the first place was a low ground player. But let's get into the standings, as we're still seeing Flucam Slam's team coming in on that first place. You know, they didn't get that victory royale, but they still are 3 points ahead of Dragon Ball's team and its Rockets team here. So, you know, like we said, they were able to still take that second place, and they were still able to make that, put them really high up on that leaderboard.
Yeah, their eliminations right there was so crucial. Of course, they did take the high ground. They got those eliminations very, very effectively. As you said, they couldn't quite clutch up the victory royale. They didn't have any white heals to heal themselves up with that Stormplay, but it did definitely work out for them. Now they're at the top of the leaderboard. So scrolling on down a little bit right now to the lower section of the leaderboard. It's the top 20 right here as well. It's still to play for. I mean, this is game number 1, Bryson. It's definitely not all over. And just as we've seen with the scoring, things can turn around very quickly with some high elimination games.
Oh, 100%. And you know, once you get into that 4th or 5th game, if you're lower on the leaderboard like that, then it's a little bit tougher. But just in that first game, there's still a lot that could happen. You could be, you know, 32nd on the leaderboard, and you could still make a lot happen within these next few games. And that could ultimately put you back up in that top 10, top 5 situations here, Miner. So I think a lot of these teams, they know that, and they're kind of evaluating what they got to do different for these next few games. And we might be seeing some of the teams lower on the leaderboard really start to climb themselves up there.
Yeah, it was definitely a very, very tough zone, of course, as well. We've got to talk about that. I mean, it was all the way over at Dirty Dock. So the teams that were maybe on the far western side of the map, it was a long rotate, maybe a little bit more difficult to get those Storm Surge tags. Of course, we never know where the zones are going to go. So there's still 5 more games to go. We've still got plenty of Fortnite action coming up for you. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see whether Flucam, Sam and Co, if they can hold out on the top spot, or maybe we'll be seeing some lower teams clutching up, maybe keeping that consistency. Because if you can get maybe 6 top 5s or top 10s today, I think you should be higher up on the leaderboards just by that consistency.
Oh yeah, exactly. And like you said, a zone like that for an end game, that's tough, especially being placed around the mountain areas within Fortnite. That's when it really gets kind of hard with, especially with those moving zones, because a lot of these teams, they're going to be going from mountain all of a sudden to the bottom lowest parts of the map, and that can be really difficult to rotate, especially if you don't have something like a launch pad. Now we are able to reuse other people's launch pads, which we see a lot with these teams, as they'll kind of wait it out. They'll wait for somebody else to use one, and then they'll use one. But either way, Miner, there's a lot that's going to be going on for this next game.
Yeah, there really is. And before we do get into that, we are going to hop into another quick short break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back for game number 2.
Running it.
And we are back. Welcome back to the PlayVS 4 High School Finals event number 3. Of course, we just had to take a little short break there. We had a few technical difficulties that we were sorting out and ironing out just going into game number 2, because we want this game to be perfect. We've already seen game number 1. It's been pretty good so far, and I'm sure game 2 is going to live up to that, I'm sure, as well, Bryson.
Oh yeah, I am super excited to get into game 2. And it's going to be interesting. We saw such a hefty end game for game 1, but a lot of times teams will take some of these middle games and they'll kind of change their play style up a little bit. So will we see a game really based around the placement here, or will we see a game where some teams will really try to frag out and take some extra eliminations for themselves to get themselves a little bit extra points to put themselves up higher in the leaderboard? I don't know, Miner, but I'm super excited for it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm so excited, of course. It's going to depend on where these teams are located on the leaderboard. Maybe you need to go for a higher elimination game, or you just want to keep up that consistency. But we're going to find out what these teams are going to go for as we hop right into game number 2. The battle bus is launching, the players are out, and they're just landing in. As we can see, plenty of players landing at their drop spots. It's sort of a little bit of an interesting bus split. It's almost right through the middle, just from the sort of northeast to the southwest side of the map. So could be working out in some teams' favor, particularly teams that are at the beginning of that bus drop. Maybe the Steamy Stacks team as well, who do appear to have it uncon, but now they're Minish, who has lost his teammate. It looks as though D-Roller being taken out right there with his assault rifle shots. Fantastic shots already, finding himself some mini shields as well. And yeah, he did take out D-Roller, so it is now a 2v2 situation between this team. But going into game number 2 right now, it's so crucial to win these off-spawn engagements, Bryson.
Oh yeah, 100%, especially with a spot like this. Like we talked about, there's so much floor loot here, and if you're able to take all that floor loot for yourself, then you're going to be real looking pretty for these end games. But it looks like right now they're going to be looking around for this other player. It looks like it's an actual 2v1 situation, as they're able to take out 2 of the other team's members and were able to get them knocked out right there. But they still hadn't fully got the eliminations yet. But now look at Bot, as he was kind of camping right there waiting. He knew he had to wait for that perfect shot, and he was able to get a 98 off, but it's still, that might not be enough. He's still gonna have to keep going on here. But look, we're using the lever shotgun. The lever shotgun is very different compared to a lot of the other shotguns, as there still is that tiny bit of delay here. So a lot of these teams, they got to learn how to kind of change their playstyle up instead of just going from a pump. The lever shotgun makes it a little bit difficult, but the Firefly is such a hefty part of Fortnite now, because as we know, Fire can easily take out multiple people at once, Miner.
Yeah, it really can, as we see Zebu right there, who was going for taken out right there by the fire. It looks like Rosebot running out of material. Swirl right now on the other end. It looks as though it's a 2v1 situation. Swirl going down now. Oh, it's all the way down to AOT right now. He can take out the final option right there of the trio. It is a great little trio wipe, and he's just about clutched up for his trio. It's Carve, it's Swelv, and it's Aoxy who win off spawn in Pleasant Park. That was really, really good from them, as Apata and Co right now are hopping on board with them. Just by this sort of IO area, we saw Seti, Kami, Teak, those guys won FNCS from this area as well, so a very, very well-respected and coveted area of the Fortnite map. Again, we're seeing some pistols being used, the new combat pistols, and now Skulls, Dom, and Noel. These guys are in a bit of an engagement. Looks like Noel has gone down, though, so it's down to Dom and Skulls. Dom doing a great job taking out not one, but two individuals right there to clutch up for his team. That was Madeline and Anonzify right there going down, but now they're getting some fire from opposite angle, but no, Dom getting some return fire as well. That was really good from him. Now Tiago all on his own. Can he clutch up here?
The action does not stop, Miner. There's so much going on right now. I mean, we just saw Dom's team right after they were able to finish the team. Another team just came in from the side and was putting shots on them. You always have to have your guard up. You know, you never know. But we're looking at Tiago's team here. Looks like it's just him. He's playing by himself right now. So he's got to be super careful. He's got to be playing as smart as possible. But he's got to be, you know, waiting for these moments, which is exactly what he did right there. He didn't push in. He didn't go for it all by himself. He waited for it to come to him. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to make anything happen with that. Now we still have Dom's team as they're kind of making themselves out of Lazy Lake. They knew it was best to avoid what was coming as that other team was pushing in towards them. But it looks like they're going to try and get out of there. They're going to try and stay away from there because they want to get into that end game. They want to be able to have that end game for themselves, and they don't want to lose it just within the first zone.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They really don't want to lose it within the first zone. It's just going to be such an important moment for these teams, you know, going into this second game, making sure you can make your way off spawn effectively. And we see Skulls and Co right now. They have got very good loot going into this second game, but they want to try and get as much materials as they can. It looks like they have had to leave their drop spot because of the fact that their teammate has gone down. So maybe we could be seeing a little bit of a reboot in action now, as well as, of course, Season 8 has enabled so many more reboot vans to be on the map. The reboot cars are now lasting, I believe, up to 5 minutes. So 5 minutes on the ground, so you can go away, come back, get your teammates to reboot, and reboot them at plenty of different locations, which is really, really helpful for all these teams, especially in trios where one teammate could go down and maybe the duo could clutch up. So this is going to be an important aspect for these teams to keep in mind during today's tournament, as we see Rocket, Dragon, and Brax. These guys, of course, winning game number 1, so interesting to see them uncontested at Steamy Stacks as well. Maybe that could be a reason why they managed to clutch up and get that victory royale. Of course, we talk so much about a high ground team, but that low ground is what came out on top in game number 1. And Skulls and Dom, they're having to rotate on out. It looks like they may have seen a team over towards that IO guard area, so there is another reboot van nearby. If they can maybe pick his teammate up here, right? It's going to be interesting to see if they can do that, because there's plenty of teams lurking nearby.
Yeah, careful though, especially with having extra reboot vans around. You in a lot of extra spots where more people could be, and as we know, the reboot van, you know, it's not quiet. You know, when you get those people up, it makes a loud sound that is heard throughout, you know, half the map per se. So it makes it, once you get that reboot, you got to be making sure that you are on your A game immediately, and that you are searching for loot for your team, because another team could hear that and realize, oh, one of these members does not have any, he does not have any weapons on him. He does not have very much health. You know, it's going to be for us to take them out quick. So a lot of teams may push right away. So you got to be super careful when you reboot, especially with realizing what your surroundings are, because if there's people around you, you know, that reboot might just give someone an extra elimination. So you got to be watching right here. But we're looking kind of in that convergence area as Demo's team is kind of hopping around. They've got a launch pad. They've got a lot to play around with. And now we have Kaido's team as they are looking directly to make a bush play, as they waited for Thrawn's team to go by, and they got those extra shots on, being able to crack 2 of their team members. This is going to be an easy fight for them if they stay and play together, which is exactly what they're doing right now, as they're able to get that first knock with just complete ease right there, Miner.
Yeah, that was really, really great from them, with ease indeed. That was patience persisting for them, just making sure that they could keep their cool, making sure that they weren't going to get too trigger happy as they were in that bush. There's plenty of opportunities for them to get some tags, but they waited for that perfect opportunity, and I think that was absolutely the right move from them. Now, though, Boom and Co. It's 6. Of course, we saw Kron going down right there. Boom having little to no HP going into this Lazy Lake area, and he is, of course, split from his teammate. You can see his teammate all the way down by the water closer to the left of Coyote right now. So this team is so far away, but Coyote has spotted. He's seen something in the distance. It is a llama, but the llama looks as though it could be going away. I think they might just miss out on this one if they're not too careful. Are they going to get it? It's not going to happen, I don't think. I think the dream is over. No, it was the last second for them. They've managed to pick up that llama right there now, but no, it's Noel going into this sort of underground or under the lazy lake area, and it's Diminished who diminishes Noel right there as well. Great elimination from them. That was a solo in Noel right there, just rotating on out, and that is the danger of being too split from your teammates, because you really don't want to be running into teams like that.
Oh yeah, exactly. And now we're kind of looking at, we just saw Boom as he got to, was trying to get away from Kyoto's team, but that llama might have been Boom's saving grace, because they stopped pushing him there when he was kind of trying to link up back with his other teammates, and they stopped pushing him to go for that llama. And it looks like he might still be on the board. He might still be playing now, because he was able to get that hefty giveaway, since the focus on Kyoto kind of reverted there towards that llama. So that's something that Boomer's probably super grateful for in the moment, because now he's actually able to play out the rest of this game. So it's going to be interesting to see what the rest of these guys do. Kyoto's team looks like they're getting a little bit of a box fight here, as Tarantula's team is right above them. They're looking to make some hefty plays with that. He's got that rare epic AR rifle right now as he's pushing in, gonna get those shots. If you have good aim with these can be just as good as an SMG when you get into people's box like this. So it's gonna be tough, as these guys are getting rained down on from the height. Looks like Summer's team has a easy advantage on them.
Yeah, it looks as though they do, and it looks as though this team are really playing this very patiently. I like the way they're playing outside of the box right now. They understand how crucial it is to not hop in, because as we see, these teams are very talented. They know how to full box you, and of course, if you're Summer, you're Pump, you're Durant, you know how important it is to play outside of the boxes, especially at this stage of the game. We saw Pump and Durant. These guys played in the most recent FNCS Grand Finals with Reverse 2K, so they know how important it is to make these mid-game fights, just making sure that they go into your favor. You really don't want to be rushing them. You don't want to be making the other team or giving the other team too many opportunities for shots. And now Durant there looks as though he's on the receiving end of some shots as Summer tries to get back to him to try and engage in this fight, maybe try and disengage now, because they may have got their tags. They may have done what they needed to do. They may think, okay, we've come here, we've done what we needed to do. Maybe we need to rotate on out, because they're not in zone here, and there seems to be plenty of other teams that are rotating on over. But maybe Beast & Co, maybe these guys have different ideas.
Yeah, and sometimes it might be better if you, when you're evaluating a situation, even if you have, the advantage on another team, but you've already got your surge, you got everything you need. Sometimes it's better just to disengage and, to get out of that fight. And I think that's what we might see right here, is it looks like Summer's team is trying to disengage in the moment, trying to get away as another team is kind of pushing up into the area. You don't want to get involved within a 3x3x3 fight like this, Miner. This is where it can get real difficult, because there's going to be shots raining from everywhere from multiple different teams. That's going to make it tough for you to keep your traction. That's going to make it tough to really be able to know where you're at and where your team's at, especially as multiple people are pushing into a fight like this.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The angles are going to be so crucial for these teams right now, as you see Beast trying to utilize a great right-hand peak angle, not without some fire from the right side of him as well. Trying to get back to his team as Don tries to go for a little shot on the player that's rotating on over to the backside of their builds. This is such an important moment, though, for Beast, Kyoto, and Dom, because they're together. They're in the low ground section of this fight. They're making sure that they can make the most of this engagement, get some Storm Surge along the way as well. But as you mentioned, there are many teams lurking. There are plenty of teams hunting them down, trying to look for their own tags. And now, though, Beast gets a great shot off with that legendary pump shotgun. He's so good at getting those tags. We've seen once again, there's a 101 on another player. That's a big crack of the shield. If he can try and find an elimination, a quick knock is what's going to keep his team in this game, making sure that they're not going to commit too much. And I like that from them, actually. I like that from Beast & Co, because although they did some great damage to Cloud's team, they're really not being too aggressive. They're staying back. They're thinking, okay, we have the heals to heal back up. Let's be patient. Let's make sure that we come out of this alive and still healthy and well. And it looks as though it's the other team's decision to rotate on out. So great tags from Beast & Co already, and I'm sure they'll be happy with the way that engagement unfolded.
Oh, 100%. And Beast was using a little bit of a fear factor there on them, because you look at that legendary and that epic pump shotgun, not only does it hit incredibly hard, but just the sound of it. The sound puts fear in the other teams. As they hear that, they know, oh no, these guys have a gun that could completely take you from 200 HP just like that, and that kind of puts that the people realize that team has an advantage on them, and I think that's something that could really go into somebody's mindset, and they might realize this is not worth it. This is not worth taking that fight, especially if they have a weapon that could take somebody out that fast. So you got to be really evaluating things like that when you're playing games. You got to be thinking fast for yourself, because if not, it could easily come to your demise within a game, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen, especially as we're getting into the second game right here. You want to be able to play through. You want to get to that end game, and that's what a lot of these teams are really working towards. As we have 68 people still alive right now, as second zone is almost closed. We're going to be getting into that third zone, getting closer and closer to the imminent end game that's about to unfold in front of us.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be interesting to see how these teams can rotate in. Of course, we're going to see what the next zone is going to show in just about 10 seconds. But for Void, Boney, and Boney Meal GFX, these guys are in a little bit of an engagement themselves. The heals are not looking too good. The material count not looking amazing either. But it looks as though Boney Mielson has decided to rotate on out. Maybe they're going for a little bit of a bait play right now as GFX and Sun. These guys are rotating on out whilst Void is staying up there. He's holding an edit. He's inside of a cone waiting for somebody to rotate on through and maybe try and come down, because that's going to be a really, really crucial play for them if they can get some tags on that, because although they do have one elimination, as we saw in the last game, it's so important to get as many tags as you can early on. We saw so many teams going down a little bit earlier on in that end game due to the lack of Storm Surge tags, and I think this team will be keeping that in mind going into this end game.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult for them, especially with the positioning they're in right now. They're kind of that outer zone, outer circle right here. And being on the outer and the third circle, that can be kind of tough, because that fourth zone more than likely isn't going to pull your way. So you got to be careful. But look at Flucam, who we saw second last game and first place all together on the leaderboard, going in with some hefty box fights. And it looks like they were able to take out Aoxy's team, making this area themselves, getting all of this loot. These guys are set up for an end game. And I don't know about you, Miner, but these are the guys that I'm really banking on seeing doing big things for this game, especially with that amount of loot that they got right there.
Yeah, that's absolutely crucial. I mean, you talked about the refresh right there. That's so important going into this endgame. They've got it at a really good time as well. We saw them get great eliminations towards the latter stages of the previous game, but they're going for those mid-game fights, maybe because they realized they didn't have the heals. They didn't have the floppers or the med kits to win that heal off at the end. So now they're going to be looking for that. Now we've seen pre-edits coming out for the first time today as Dima and Eden and Straw Hat Hero. These guys trying to get themselves inside of the box, using the pre-edits very well, but they're having to get back together because there's some return fire from the opposing players, but it's not enough to take one of them out, as they do manage to take out Boney and Neil Sun right there. One of the players we saw just rotating on down. That's a crucial elimination for them, because as we mentioned, it's not just about getting the refresh or indeed that loot, it's also about getting that Storm Surge, and they're going to try and get as much as they can. It's Boney Mielson going down, and it is of course the other player as well. I think it was Void. Yeah, it was Void there who goes down to Straw Hat Hero. That's such a crucial elimination for them, and they pick up another one, do they? Oh no, it was Eden. It was Eden's elimination right there who manages to take them out. We're seeing from the other angle though, it's Chloro FN trying to use that automatic sniper to his advantage, try and get as much Storm Surge as they can, because look, they have no eliminations. They're on the edge of zone, and their material count, it's not looking too good.
Yeah, and you know what? Looking at those pre-edits we just saw in the last engagement there, pre-edits are not a new thing, but something we're seeing used a lot more lately. We had a lot of players calling for Epic to be able to give us an option to disable pre-edits, because people were getting, upset with them accidentally pre-editing something and it would ruin their game. But now we're seeing a lot of players kind of changing up the playstyle and really utilize pre-edits for their own now. And we see that a lot, because a pre-edit can really confuse another team, because they might not a wall there when there actually is, and they're trying to hold on. Well, you're just able to get those quick shots off. And a lot of teams that are able to use that smart, they're able to really take over a lot of these these engagements, and we just saw that with the last team. But now we're kind of looking at Rooney's team, and they've got a little bit of a haul they got to make, but bad, and they got to be careful, because we already know they are being watched by a team that is pulling height right there. So they got to kind of take the side of this mountain and use that to kind of protect themselves. But let's look at Hero's team. They are perfect in positioning right now. They just got to be careful, got to make sure they're protecting themselves. I say that we get a little bit of the caster's curse as they start getting, beamed from the side, but still, they are right on the edge of that fourth zone. And the fourth zone is that one circle that you want to be on the edge on, because somewhere somewhere you will pull half and half, and it's going to be on the edge of that circle. So if you get lucky and you pull that half and half, you are set up for a perfect end game.
Yeah, you really are. And Hero, Dima, and Eden, these guys are set up for success. Of course, they're up on top of the high ground, as you mentioned, just on the edge of the zone. And that's absolutely vital for them getting into a good endgame here. We saw them pick up 3 eliminations going into this endgame. So picking up that refresh, you can see the assault rifle ammo, the material count looking very good as well. But as we see a beautiful drone shot on the left side of the screen, we can see the difference in elevation. So many teams are deciding to try and go for as high of an elevation as possible, but maybe there are some teams that have had to settle for a little bit of a lower situation. We're seeing Caroline and co. These guys are a little bit lower down, and they are also a lot lower down on the Storm Surge. No, they're not. They're 216 above. That was fantastic for them getting those 2 eliminations. I would have been surprised if they were below at that time. That was fantastic from them getting those eliminations early on. And now, though, the automatic sniper coming out. And now we're seeing the sideways playing a part in the end game as well. We haven't seen this yet today. The sideways making its name known in the end game right here. They can't build in there, of course, either. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because they can't build. They can't get shot in there. But more crucially, they can't even get back to their old base because it's been destroyed.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with the sideways. You know, those are things that could just creep up on you, and something you don't expect, especially in competitive mode, but it can really make or break your game. And we just saw that right there, as you know, they were kind of chilling, they were just working in the area, and all of a sudden the sideways popped up, and they had to fully find a new spot. They had to find a new area, which causes them to have to use some extra materials right there, and that makes it tough for players like that. So you gotta be careful, you gotta be always watching your surroundings. We're looking at Hydrix right here. They've got a pretty full haul that they got to make, but they're looking to get some of that Storm Surge. Right now, it looks like they're 255 above, as Storm Surge is active with 6 players still needing to be eliminated. But it looks like Hydrix team, they don't got too much to worry about within the moment. Now they just got to really find their way through and see how they can rotate towards this zone.
Yeah, they really do, but it looks like Coda Rooney and his team are going to go down to the Storm Surge. That's such an unfortunate situation for them. They're going to fall to the wrath of Storm Surge, and yeah, he goes down right there. There's still 2 players need to be eliminated as well, so potential for more players to be going down, but it's definitely not going to be Cloud, Minish, and Apache. Those guys are 1,800 above the Storm Surge threshold, which is absolutely incredible. They do have the incredible loot right there of the epic pump shotgun, and of course plenty of assault rifle ammo as well to their name. They're going to be able to spray some teams and get them off their layer when we get to the latter stages of this end game. It looks as though Beast was another player going down to that Storm Surge as well, and this is a great opportunity for them to pick up even more tags, as people like Hydrux, people like Cabe, people like all those players that are gliding in. This is a great opportunity for them to add to that 8 elimination. They have 8 eliminations. They're absolutely incredible. They're adding to that right now. Let's see if they can do it more.
Yeah, being able to hold half and half while other teams are trying to rotate is really crucial for a lot of these players, because like we talked about last game, a lot of players will end up using their launch pads to do that, and they're going to just have that lull where they're stuck in the air as they're trying to rotate, and that gives teams, other teams, a really high advantage to be able to look for plays. I mean, we just saw Hydrix as he got taken all the way down to only 100 health during that rotate right there. So a lot of HP can be taken away from a lot of these teams. Like Cloud are just kind of chilling in their box, looking for loads of shots. And look at that, if they're looking at Brax and Rocket's team, absolutely just lasering, putting the fire on, making sure they know that they're not getting in here. They're not having an end game like they are, because they want to be able, you know, take that spot for themselves, because this is where it gets real. This is where the competitive edge gets the highest, because these teams are going to have to not only focus on getting eliminations, staying alive, but they got to focus on rotating. They got to focus on protecting themselves. So a lot of people, this is where their builds come in. This is where we see a lot of tarping, and this is where we see some teams holding some impressive height. And it looks like Ku's team, they've got one of the best spots right here, right off the side of the mountain. If they can keep that, Miner, then this is going to be big for them.
Yeah, it really is. As we saw that, I think they only had 1 elimination, so their loot wasn't too good. So it'll be interesting to see how long they'll be able to hold that for, as the zone does pull all the way over this water. So a lot of builds will be required. A lot of people do not want to be trying to go for that swimming mechanic in the game. You want to be building, you want to be making sure that you're getting you and your team inside of the zone nice and early on, as we see Cloud trying to get around the left side of this zone, picking up a nice little tag on the player as he goes. Trying to get back with his team, of course, as well, making sure that they can get some eliminations as a Minish tarping ahead. We see him do this a lot. He's very, very good at this, getting his team into the perfect position. 2,500 above the Storm Surge threshold, so a very, very impressive tally for them. But no, yeah, it's still Kaze all the way up on high. It's Conman and Riot. It's this trio who have managed to take that high ground commandingly on game number 2, as it's Blue Cam Slam going down earlier on than he would have liked. Oh no, he takes them out. It's Kuz, Livyar, and his teammate. That's unbelievable. I thought he went down. It wasn't though. It was Blue Cam Slam coming out with some great eliminations to add to their elimination tally. Rocket though, our game 1 winner, going down in the feed. It's Crackley who's the one that's taken him out. Now it's Bacon, Jarema, and Nerface. These guys trying to battle it out on the mid-ground layer. They haven't got too many builds. They haven't got their teammate either, so it's going to have to be a duo clutch from these guys.
30 people still left on the board right now, Miner, and we still got 2 zones left. A lot of these teams, this is where it's crucial for them. And we got a lot of teams that are taken out. Might be down a player, might be down 2 players. It might be a solo clutch right here as we see Hydrix go down, as Cave is really the only one left to kind of fend for himself. But Bacon's team is just Bacon and Nerface as they're kind of pulling around, kind of looking for some shots here, looking for some eliminations that they'll be able to get, but also fully focus on getting ahead and staying ahead of the Storm, because that's what really matters in moments like this, because that Storm is moving fast and it's taking some heavy ticks, and that's the last thing you want, is to be eliminated by the Storm. It is one thing to be eliminated by another player, but once that Storm takes you out, that is just one of the worst feelings, and a lot of these players are just doing everything they can to stay away from that. Now Caroline is going to be holding the bottom, just holding that charge pump able to hit heavy shots, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. Now we have Blue Cam Slam. He's playing a solo play for himself as Captain Crackley and Hughes are able to have their entire team on the board. It's got a 157 shot on Bacon. They're going to be looking for some more plays here. They're able to get a complete refresh going into this final zone here, Miner.
That's so crucial for them, picking up that early refresh going into this final zone. They're going to be able to pick up so many materials from that as well, even if it is just a Siphon. That's 150 builds to their, or 150 maps to their name. We're seeing Hughes with that gold pump shotgun. Fantastic abilities right there to be able to get onto some of those shots and capitalize on that damage. Now, Captain and Crackley and Hughes, these guys all the way ahead of zone. They're utilizing their materials so well. 500 wood materials for Captain if he can try and get his team inside of that zone. And Blue Cam Slam finally falls in the feet. A valiant effort from him, picking up, I think, 6 eliminations as a solo. Such an impressive play from him. But he is now down. It's opened the door wide open for the team on high. It's Durant, it's Plumber all the way on high. It's Captain trying to put a clutch up and get some eliminations down low. It's DJ who is picking up more eliminations. That's 1, that's 2, and it's not quite enough to pick up the victory royale for them. It's 3 players left. It's 3 teams left, 5 players left. Captain, though, trying to go for this medkit play. Only on 50 HP, though. What's going to happen?
Ooh, we still got 3 players left with 3 teams left with only 4 players. Now it looks like it is a 2v1 situation as the win is taken by, it looks like, Summer's team, Pump's team. Wow, what a game, Miner. We had some impressive endgame right there. It was stacked. There wasn't any type of W king going on or anything like that. We saw a lot of people alive during those final zones right there, and a lot of people that were really trying to make some desperate plays because they needed those points and they needed that victory royale. We saw, people at the beginning as D-Roller's team was taken out earlier on, but we even saw people like melting them as they were utilizing that fire. A lot of big plays made that game.
Yeah, some really big plays. And as you mentioned, a lot of teams down on the low ground. We saw Caroline having to swim all the way into the end game, trying to pick up some eliminations, but it couldn't quite happen. But of course, it was Durant and Pump and Co. Those guys all the way on high. Unlike game number 1, it's high ground that's king in game number 2, managing to clutch up right there. And I think having that high ground on a water zone right there is really what helped them secure that victory royale. We saw Yaz, Captain Cracker, these guys picking up elimination after elimination. So as we saw with the scoring system, it is elimination heavy as well as placement heavy. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. Some great clutches.
Yeah, and we saw people like DJ as they were utilizing that charged shotgun where they were holding in the water, and we're looking at Pump's team as they came through with that victory royale. A lot of crazy stuff happening right here. It's going to be very interesting to see, who's where and what's going on. But we did see what we saw in first place last game. Flucam's team, they were holding first place before this game. Flucam was making some impressive solo plays. Like you said, you saw him take a lot of eliminations throughout that end game.
Yeah, we really did. And we're going to see what that means for the leaderboard just after this quick break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, Fortnite fam, to the Play vs. 4 High School Finals event number 3. I'm your host, Miniminer, alongside Unamuse Price, and we just saw one of the most incredible games ever inside of Fortnite. Game number 2 of today. It's going to be incredible to see what that means to the leaderboard, and I think we have that ready for you right now. Let's have a look at this, Bryson. Who's going to come out on top?
Ooh, and it looks like FluCam is still able to hold that first place like we saw during that end game. I know you even said it. FluCam was just pulling out elimination after elimination, using that solo clutch, and that was big for him. They were able to keep on with that first place, having a mere 7 points above Pump's team, but Pump was able to come in with that win for the second game, putting them right up there. And like we said, they weren't up there for the game before that, but anything can happen in these Fortnite games, as we're still seeing a lot of people make this way up as Rocket's team falls from second down to fourth, but we see Dom's team climbing back up there. There's a lot of people that are trying to get these points in fast, Miner.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Of course, as we mentioned before, the scoring system does definitely attend to some big high elimination games, so we could be seeing some clutches right here as well, as we're seeing plenty of teams that could be in that region as well, the 11th to 20th on the screen right now. We saw Cloud, Aperta, and Co getting some great eliminations in that previous game, definitely having a better game 2 than they did game 1, but as we mentioned, it's only game number 2. We've still got plenty more games to come as we're looking all the way down to the top 30. We're seeing D-Roller's team all the way down there with only 1 point for them so far, so I know that's a team that a lot of you guys at home will be looking at and hopefully seeing how well they do, but unfortunately they haven't had the best off spawn for them so far, so it's going to be interesting to see how maybe they switch things up, because they're almost at last place. They really don't want to be thinking about keeping on the way they're going. They want to be switching things up, right, Bryson?
Oh, yeah, exactly. A lot of these players, they're going to use these middle areas of the tournaments when you get in that game 3, game 4, and they're going to realize, hey, maybe we got to do something different. Maybe our drop spot isn't working. A lot of players are going to have to last second try something new. And you know what? Sometimes this might not work for players, but sometimes we see players come back just like that after finding something new. And it's going to be interesting to see what some of these players that are a little bit lower on the leaderboard, what they decide to do different that'll keep them in the game, that'll get them towards that top 10, that top 15, which is where the money is made.
That's absolutely right. The top 15 is where they want to be. And of course, it's going to be experience, I think. For me, in this situation, it's all about experience. If you've played in these single lobby formats before, you have an experienced trio, or you've played together for a long time and you have that chemistry, I think that's really what's going to come out on top in game number 3 here, because this is a crucial moment for a lot of these teams. Maybe we'll be seeing some switch-ups of drop spots. Maybe we'll be seeing some switch-ups of storm surge strategies, or maybe even loot distribution within the trio, because this is now a situation where you can make or break your tournament, because if you're up on the top, it can all go wrong, and if you're down the bottom, there's still potential for a comeback.
And like you said, a comeback could really easily happen. A team that gets taken down off drop, they could really utilize, that time while they're waiting for the next game to see what happens. But talking about games, looks like we're about to get into the third game, Miner. Now let's kind of look and see where everybody's dropping. We're going into that Holly drop, somewhere that you said you really like, and it's an interesting place to drop, especially if you have people out over there by Viking, because one or the other, one team could kind of sneak up on the other one. So you got to always have your back on guard, because sometimes having a giant open POI like this to yourself can be a little bit dangerous, because you could have one person kind of isolated from the rest of the team, and then without them even realizing it, another team pulls up and is able to take them out. So now it's a 2v3 situation, and that is not the type of situation you want to get yourself put in. So it'll be super interesting to see what a lot of these teams do here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. As you mentioned just there as well, the slipstreams are so important. So, of course, Holly is just outside one of those slipstreams. So it looks as though, yeah, they have split. I think they have sort of dominated this drop spot now. They've made sure that they are the kings of Holly hedges. So I think one of the other teammates has decided to go to the Viking area themselves. And now, though, Steamy Stacks, I believe it was uncontested in game number 2 and maybe game number 1. Brax, Rocket, and Dragon, these guys are having a bit of a situation to deal with here. They're thinking, hang on a sec, we landed here in the previous game and we were uncontested. There was no soul to be seen. And now there's 2 teams here. What's going on? This is crazy. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys can clutch up and maybe switch up their strategy, because this is what we were talking about, Bryson. This is what we were talking about. The switch up of strategies, players going for these contested drops, maybe even trying to find themselves some better loot to make their way into the end game. They're identifying those areas in which they need to improve. And I think maybe a switch up of drops could work for some of these teams. But Rocket, Dragon, and Brax, how do you deal with this?
I don't know because, we're kind of, like you said, we were talking about teams that have to switch up their drops, but then we don't really think about the teams that already have a drop and then another team switches up and lands on them. You're not really expecting that to happen. You think if you have a drop to yourself from the beginning, you're probably going to have it for the rest of the tournament in these single lobby type of tournaments like this. So it makes it real difficult for some teams who has been able to just have that mindset of we're going to be a lone off drop and all of a sudden have another team pop in. That can make it difficult. And like we know, Fortnite's such a big head game. It's such big with the mindset. And if you let your mindset get down like that after one of your teammates unexpectedly gets beamed, then that could be ultimately but what takes you out there because you're just not prepared. But these teams that decide to play together, they stay prepared. These are the teams that we're going to see, go kind of crazy here. And I think that's what's going to happen here as, those two steamy teams are going to be taking each other. But we're getting over to Taco's team, a team we haven't really seen much action from today. But it looks like they're able to find the llama, which could ultimately change the tournament. I mean, llamas are one of the craziest things in the game. They're they give you so many mats, they give you so many heals, and they give you those chili splashes. So being able to have stuff like that and moving forward into end games, if this is a team that wasn't really getting much of an end game, all of a sudden find that llama, that could completely change the playing field for them.
Yeah, that really could. We saw how important the llama was in the previous game. We saw a lot of the teams on the lower ground section utilizing those chili chug splashes to gain that extra momentum, that extra speed, which can definitely carry you through that end game. And Toko and Co, these guys will be very, very happy, as we saw Caroline in the previous game having to swim their way through the water, try and pick up some scraps, some eliminations, maybe try and find some siphon mats as well. As we hop back on board right now, there's Anonzify and Boom Beast and Madeline. These guys were the ones that were contesting the original team, the game one winners of Rocket and Dragon and Co. These guys are the brave ones. They're the ones in uncharted territory right now, so I'm sure they'll be wary as to how they're going to play this one now. Boom Beast and Anonzify, we haven't seen too much from these guys so far, so maybe that could lead to why they're deciding to switch up their drop spot, but they're using the stacks, and I think getting the stack control is so important, as Dragon and Co have identified that already. They're already commanding their drop spot, making sure that they are known that this is their drop spot, nearly taking out Madeline as well, as they are now down to 2 of their players having 0 shield in their inventory. And now though, yes, it is, I believe it's Boom Beast. Yeah, Boom Beast going down, and Anonzify trying to pick up some tags as well though. And he's the only one. Anonzify is the only one of this trio that is still alive, healthy, and well, because Madeline's pretty much down to 0 HP. It's going to be should be a simple engagement for Dragon and Co, especially if they are experienced on this drop. Boom Beast now might be shaken down to reveal the location of Anonzify and Madeline, but they're going to be on the back foot right now. Maybe this isn't the best fight for them to take, because Rocket and Co, they're on the front foot here.
Yeah, and you know what? Like we were talking about earlier, it was definitely a surprise for Rocket and them to have people all of a sudden contesting their drop. But it looks like they were able to play well together as they're kind of holding it in. But it looks like the team's now pushing back, making kind of a play right here. Oh, and no, it looks like we have another team that's kind of in the area. So now it's a little bit of a third-party action, and that's where it's going to get real difficult, especially in a big open area like the stacks, where a lot of people can just come in out of nowhere, and people can utilize the stack plays right here as they utilize that for movement. And it looks like that's exactly what Dragon's going to do. He's going to have to leave Rocket and try and get out of here, because he knows that the only play they're going to be able to have is if one of them is still alive.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I really like Steamy Stacks, of course, as well, because it does give you that potential for rotating on out. And now do we see another llama being found? This is another llama just outside of the Steamy Stacks area. And Anonzify right now down to just a duo. Madeline, of course, we did see it go down. Boom Beast, of course, is his teammate, but of course, Boom Beast having very little HP to work with, as well as Anonzify. Maybe wants to drop some minis to his teammate, but Boom Beast going down, and so does Anonzify. It's Dima, Young Eden, and Straw Hat Hero. We saw these guys picking up late eliminations in the previous game, so maybe we're seeing a bit of a switch up of strategy from them. They're going for those earlier eliminations, going for that Steamy Stacks area, and I think that's a really, really great play from them, because we saw them trying to have to go for those the sort of pre-edit plays in the previous game, so I like that play from them. But so we're hopping back on board with Storm and Skulls and Noel. And Noel, it appears, though, has gone down just inside of the Pleasant Park area.
Yeah, and they got to be careful. We are already seeing Pleasant Park fights earlier from the last games. And a lot of these teams, I mean, there's a multiple amount of teams that land there. Pleasant Park is not a small POI, so it's very easy for a lot of people to kind of take that spot. But we're kind of looking at Skulls making a play on getting Noel back up. If he's able to do that and get Noel to a decent amount of health, that puts them right back in the playing field. And I think that's exactly what they're going to be able to do it there, as he throws on that med kit, and they even have those shields, those half shields right there. So there's a lot that's about to happen between Dami, Scolds, and Knowles because they're able to get their team right back up on top. And now, this is something the other team might not expect. They might expect a heal, but they're not going to expect all three to be up just like that. So now they got to really focus on keeping their stuff together now because it looks like Dom's team is going to be looking heavy to come back here. They said, no, you don't take one of our teammates out and get away with it. So they're going right in for this box fight, and they're making this area themselves now.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They turned the tables oh so quickly on this fight. They're now the ones that are on the front foot. They're the ones that are being a bit more aggressive as Dom tries to go for as many walls as possible, getting that piece control, blocking up his back as well, making sure there's no third parties due to the sort of corrupted area nearby, using that charged shotgun as well. A shotgun that not all the players, I'm sure, will be too comfortable with, but Dom really utilizing that very well, using the scare factor as well of having a fully charged shotgun just on the other side of the wall, trying to connect with some SMG shots right there as well. That epic SMG, such a vital weapon to use. The compact SMG, another elimination for this team though. They pick up one. Can they pick up two? They can, and they can also pick up the third as well. That's a really, really clean fight from them. They've taken out Swell, Aoxy, and Carve all as a trio without going down as well. Of course, there seems to be a bit of a third party coming over, potentially from the other side of Pleasant Park, but that's a really great elimination, or 3 eliminations from them. Sorts them out for Storm Surge. They have that early refresh, and I think they played that to perfection.
Yes, they really did. And you know what? Regardless if there's a third party or not, we're looking at Nerface's team, and they're kind of over on the complete opposite end, which gives the other guys a little bit of an advantage as they can kind of get their stuff back together. They can kind of get their heals up. So it really wouldn't be the best engagement for Nerface's team to really go for there. And it doesn't look like that's what they're going to do. They're going to hop on, they're going to use those wheels, and they're going to add them to their cars. They're going to try and get out of the area. They're going to kind of fight for that mid circle, kind of go towards a better spot to post up on as we're getting into that second zone here pretty soon. Now we're looking at Atrix team, a team we haven't really seen today, but it looks like Dami's team and Noel got in another fight, and it looks like Scolds was taken out as Dami was just knocked. Now it's going to be up to Noel as he's going to have to carry this one on his own. It looks like he was the one that was down earlier, and now it's just him alive. But it looks like he might take a little bit of a disengagement play because, as we know, playing by yourself always isn't the best. But we had somebody hop right in the car with him, confusing him there a little bit as he was unfortunately taken out in that. Look who it is. It is our first place right now, FluCam Slam's team. These guys, they're really dominating right now. They're really trying to make sure they stay in that first place because they don't want it to even be a close call whatsoever, Miner. They want no one to be able to compete with them today.
Yeah, I tell you what, they are playing so exceptionally well. They're balancing those eliminations with those placements. And I think that's what they've been doing to get those early to mid-game engagements and eliminations, is going for fights that maybe have happened a little bit and the teams are a little bit further apart. I think that's really, really crucial from them because they're going into these fights just after the team has taken out another opposing team, which means they might be a bit scuffed on heels. They might be a little bit, out of order in terms of where everyone is. So I think that's a really, really great fight for them to take. Maybe that's what they've been doing all day, but another 3 eliminations for Cam and his team. It's just the textbook stuff from them so far. And now that we're hopping back on over with Caroline, Nugget, and Taco's team right now, as they seem to be in a good situation just outside of the zone, inside of this IO guard base. Plenty of materials to refarm here, as well as these guys look to have some very, very solid loot going into this endgame. A really, really good surge spot as well. 72 players do still stand in this game as teams that are trying to fight for their surge. There are some teams that are trying to go for early to late tags, and this is a Denzi and Co. on the receiving end of some teams that are trying to fight for their surge as well. It's Pump. It's our game 2 winners. It's Pump, Duran, and Summer right now, trying to find as many angles as they can. Summer finding a great angle, but only connecting to the 23 shot right there with the green pump, though. Not quite enough to take too much damage off that opposing player, but they're going to have to try and disengage this team, I think, because they know that the game 2 winners are on them. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're unsure, but I think if I was them, I would be disengaging because we know the fighting ability of Pump, Duran, and Summer. We know how good Pump and Duran are at fighting together. They're 400 above the Storm Surge. It's almost the team that they're aggressing. They need it more than them right now, and it's Denzi, Coda, and Clara who really do need this fight, so we could be seeing them switch things up a little bit and maybe go for the more aggressive plays on Pump, Duran, and Summer. It looks as though they're playing it out very, very patiently. They seem to be quite split as well in this engagement, so this could lead to the fall of Denzi if he can't quite get back to his team, but he can. That's really, really solid play from them. And this is a crucial fight right here.
Yeah, they got to be careful because Summer's team is a team that leaves no mercy. You know, they're really looking for those shots. Even if they're far above Storm Surge right now, they still want to make sure that, you know, nobody else is around them, that they have every elimination possible. And look at that. They're getting those wide edits, those edits that can confuse a lot of teams because it makes it look like there's no wall there when there really is. And it looks like Pump is going to be utilizing that mythic AUG AR and the legendary charge pump. You know, this is a gun that if you can really utilize it within your team, as with other people trying to take walls while somebody holds that charge, I mean, that is a gun that hits upwards of 220. You know, that's a lot to be taken from, especially when that can take one of your teammates down just like that. So you got to be careful when teams are really utilizing some of these, you know, less conventional weapons that you don't see as much, because you really don't see the charge as much as you see the pump and the lever shotgun, because the charge is one that you have to be able to craft. So it's not really utilized throughout a lot of teams. So when another team is utilizing it, you know they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The scare factor of being able to hold that charged shotgun just outside of the box. Of course, one shot, as you mentioned, even upwards of 150 body shot damage with that legendary version. It's such a powerful weapon, a power weapon that we've seen so often used in the end game as well, because it allows you to hold angles, it allows you to get people off your layer. But even in these mid-game engagements, this allows you to be a little bit more patient and a little bit more calm with the way you play this. And that has paid off in their favor, as we see the zone is just inside of the Lazy Lake area. So it was really, really good that they didn't rush this fight, because they really didn't need to. They couldn't risk someone going down. They had 400 above the Storm Surge, and they still do, which is amazing. But a nice easy rotate for them. They got to be very, very careful. I like this from Summer. Just staying back, holding a couple of angles, making sure that the other team are not going to look at his teammates just too much, because we know Pump and Durant, they know how to fight. We really don't want them going down. Of course, that's going to be such an asset to this team going into the end game. And they're trying to find as many tags as they can, and now they're going to all rotate in as a trio. Maybe not, though, but no, not without some fire from the teams already situated in Lazy Lake. Rotating in late, of course, does have this danger. You know, you might get beam from the players that are always in zone, and almost the team that you're just fighting are almost beaming right there from Summer, who does go down a lot of HP. Chloro and Co are deciding to rotate in a little bit later, go for that more risky play, but it has paid off for them because they can get those Storm Surge tags as they're rotating in. So really, really good from them. But for me right now, I'd be looking to try and find some heals.
Yeah, you got to be careful, especially in situations like that. You know, at first we saw Summer trying to kind of bait the team as they stayed back, and we saw the other team, as the rest of the team moved forward. So that team thought, oh, we're in the clear now, we can move. And when they did, Summer was just waiting on top. But look at that now. As Summer got forward, the other team waited again, and we saw Summer lose a hefty amount of HP right there. So like you said, anything can happen. You know, the trade-offs are just like that. A team can go from being on top to all of a sudden being on the bottom. You know, you never know if you're going to have, if another team's just waiting to get those beams off on you. And anything could really happen. You could go from, you know, 200 to 50 HP just like that. So you got to really be watching yourself, and you got to be careful, especially in these third zone situations where there's still a decent amount of people on the board. 71 people still alive. Storm Surge is active. You know, these players are playing for themselves, they're playing for their team, but they're playing as they're playing these games as crucially safely as they can, because they do not want to get third party. And we're seeing that a lot right now as multiple fights are happening where multiple teams are looking to get those extra shots on the side and being able to take those quick eliminations for themselves.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Of course, getting those eliminations is going to be so crucial. We saw a lot of teams utilizing that ability going into this sort of latter stages, maybe into zone 4, getting those eliminations to get you that refresh. Because, of course, you do use so many materials going into the end game. Getting that early refresh, capping off all of your teammates with materials, it just allows you to not focus on getting those refreshes at the end. Although it is a little bit easier to get the refreshes right when everyone's sort of scrambling in the end zone. It can be a little bit tough because, of course, your teammates could get a little bit split. It can be a little bit disorientating when you are rotating through the zone, and I like that from them. They're going for those sort of mid to late game eliminations as Tiago and Bezki and Secrets right now. These guys haven't got any eliminations to their names, so they're playing a little bit more passively, but they've got to rotate their way in. This is going to be a tough rotate for them. It looks very, very simple, but what they've got to contend with here is all of these teams, all of these players are already situated. They're already sitting pretty all the way up in Lazy Lake. There's a lot of teams already situated in zone that are going to be looking at them as free Storm Surge as they are rotating on it, but now they're trying to find some Storm Surge of their own as they're trying to take this early engagement into this late game as Secrets tries to hop in the box. Nearly going down though, only 15 HP or so. Is that 19 HP? Then Bezki down to white HP as well. And now Secrets has been taken out. It's Tiago that takes out Wish. And now though, this is a tough situation for them. This is exactly what you don't want to happen going into the end game. This is supposed to help your teammates, not hinder them, as it looks as though Secrets has been managed to be picked up right now. They are going to find this revive if they are careful with how they operate it, because Demo, Simon and Bafika, these guys are lurking nearby as well, and they're on the hunt for some more eliminations to add to their tally of the day. They haven't got any in this game, but with loot like that, with that epic pump shotgun, I mean, with a blue assault rifle there as well, you can really do some damage.
Oh, yeah. And it's going to be interesting, seeing how some of these teams got to rotate. And like you talked about, a zone that's pulling into Lazy Lake. I mean, there's some skyscrapers there that a lot of teams are already kind of using for themselves, kind of hanging on top of right now. And that's going to make it difficult, having that natural height already. A lot of these teams that are trying to get in, it's going to make it super easy for them to get focused, for them to get beamed. And we're already looking at some of these teams right here as we got Kodarooni's team. They're all still together, Denzi and Chlora, but they're kind of making a sneak in as they're trying to find a spot for them that they can get in without getting beamed. But that's going to prove to be semi-difficult here as we're going into that first half and half, the only half and half zone, going out of that fourth circle as Kodarooni is kind of hanging out right here, but they're only 63 above Storm Surge. That's what's going to make it. Now they're up to 218, putting them in a little bit more of a decent positioning. This is a difficult spot, especially with still 15 people that need to be eliminated before we see Storm Surge go away. It's going to be real hard for a lot of these teams, like we said, as others are being beamed, because look at that miner. There is a big amount of people on each side of the zone, but there's barely anybody in the middle. So these teams that are trying to rotate, it's going to be kind of mass chaos on either side right now.
Yeah, it really will be. It's left, right, and center action all the way through, and shots coming through from plenty of different angles. My only worry for this Kodarooni team right now is the lack of hard materials. Going into the end game is going to be so crucial with the addition of fire as well. Those wood builds will burn, they will hurt, and they will damage the players. Of course, the lack of heals as well potentially being a problem, and now this is what you talked about. That lobby focus, the potential. All of these players, they're all in the skyscrapers, the built-up area of Lazy Lake. And they're, of course, in those higher buildings. Maybe they're in their office, maybe they're working from home in one of their apartments all the way up on the top of Lazy Lake, but they're thinking now this is an opportunity to beam down below, and a great opportunity is that to take out maybe some players and get some of their Storm Surge. But it's unfortunate for Chloro and Co, because they're on the receiving end of that, and not only are they on the receiving end of some big shots and some big focuses from plenty of other teams, they've got to rotate in far. They're not in zone. Unlike Simon, Demo, and Batfika right now, these guys are in the zone. They seem to be quite chilling in this sort of department. They are up on height as well, so they can look for a lot of people that are now rotating in, maybe using a launch pad as well. But a really, really great opportunity for them to look for that Storm Surge, because 316 above is a lot, but I don't think it'll carry them to the rest of this game.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You could have as much Storm Surge as you need, but all of a sudden going to that next level of Surge, when we get to the 30, when we get to that 7th zone, all of a sudden they might need Surge again, and that's where it gets tougher, especially when you're so focused on rotating. These are the best times to get Surge because you're not super focused on rotating, especially in situations like this. Once you get into those moving zones, it becomes a lot more difficult. Now it looks like these guys are really trying to alpha height right here to make sure that nobody knows they can take it, and they're looking for some shots ahead of them right there, as we have Brayden's team also looking, but they got to be careful because it doesn't look like they have Simon and them fully connected as well as they could, but it looks like they're just trying to move forward and take this entire spot for themselves. And aggressive play to say the least, as they're making sure nobody contests them right now as we're moving into that first fully moving zone right here. These guys have a perfect positioning. They also have those chili peppers as they have everybody back. They have Simon way in the back, or Demo way in the back, as he is making sure he's on an even higher layer of height right now. They're completely holding the spot for themselves. 0 eliminations though. They got to make sure nobody is able to take them down, as they need to look for as many eliminations as possible, because this is the best time for them. This is where they have the better positioning than other players.
Yeah, of course, being up high, you do get the potential of getting more headshot damage. Of course, that headshot multiplier going to be so crucial in getting that damage, especially on people like Tokka, who's flying through the sky, but not on too much HP. Is that 111 effective HP for him right now? So it's going to be tough for them to make their way into a latter stage of this endgame if they can't find that refresh. As Chris right now, as a solo, clutching up, getting a great elimination right there on another opposing player that's falling all the way down. The material count not looking too good. If he can try and find that elimination, that's going to be so crucial for him. It was Beast that was taken down to the big pump shotgun shot from him right there. Now, though, we're seeing one of our top teams. It's Pump, it's Durant, and it's Summer, but Pump right there going down. He tried to use that charge shotgun to his advantage. He used it well, but not quite well enough, as he does go down, and Durant and Summer have to try and pick up the pieces and pick up their teammate if they can do that. Now, though, they literally have, it's Durant who's carrying Pump on his back, not quite going to be able to pick up the revive, but what's more crucial there, I think, for them is being able to pick up that refresh. You know, maybe they'll be able to replicate the success of game number 2, but no, this is our high team. It's Demo, it's Simon, and it's Batfika. They seem to have fallen.
Yeah, and now we're looking at a team like Taco, who we haven't really seen, you know, pull a lot of these end games here these past few games. But now, if they're utilizing it, they've made it to the 7th zone, and this is where they're going to really need to look for some heavy plays right here. But we're seeing Summer and Drantula's team, they're still alive. They're still on the leaderboard. They have not been fully eliminated yet. But look at a team like DJ and Fisher, another team that we saw a little bit of, but not entirely seen them fully in these end games. And now we're back to Nuggets' team, as Nugget is slowly using these ways to get forward. He was using as much as possible mats because he really needed to protect them. But what they're going to really be able to utilize here is the fact that they have 3 players alive, while so many others only have 1 or 2, and being able to have that extra advantage, that's going to put them at just a better position. And look, Miner, look what they have. They have that minigun, a gun that we've been able to see just absolutely shred through builds, especially in this end. Getting a little bit of a box fight play, looking for a quick refresh of eliminations. Now we do have, it's hard to see really what we got going on height at the moment, because a lot of people are just looking for shots and beaming, but still Taco's team is making them way forward. They're looking for rotates. We got Kyoto and Dom. They're still alive on the leaderboard, as Beast has fallen, and they're looking for some quick hefty shots, as they were able to hit somebody for 46 HP. They're looking for some of those big shots, but they got to be careful here.
They really do, going to the back of the zone right there, getting a great elimination on Crackly right there from Kyoto, Kaze, Riot, and Conman. These guys all still alive. We've seen Conman compete at the highest level of this PlayVS event in the past, so maybe using his experience to help his trio make his way into this endgame. The material count not looking too good for them right now, though. Only down to wood. We see so many teams on this material, which is not ideal because they could get sprayed, as they're doing right now from high ground, left side, low ground. Everyone is looking at this team, but now they've managed to make their way out of that situation. They do have that harpoon potential as well, so they do need to hop into a box. They can do that. Pump, Durant have gone down. Summer left as a solo. Now can they clutch up? Only 15 HP to their name. They need to try and find a way out of this engagement and this situation. It's so tough for them with no white heals. They're almost buried under here. It's so tough for them to try and get out. They're trying to decide which way to go, and the way that they go is to the pump shot of Reeve right there, who does take out Summer. It's going to be an intense end game. Blue Cam Slam, though, all the way up on height once again.
Wow, Fluke and Slam, they're really trying to make sure they keep that first place, but what a great game by Summer's team, as they still were able to get themselves in that top 6 situation. But Fluke Cam Slam coming in with that first place. Wow, this is going to keep them in just a great positioning right now, as they obviously and easily still have first on the leaderboard.
Blue Cam Slam, you are incredible. 10 eliminations just to him, just for Slam. Oh, incredible. They had 15 eliminations as a trio, but Blue Cam Slam has just managed to pull off a 10 elimination game on his own. They're getting elimination after elimination, but more crucially, they are combining that with the placements as well. That's their first win of the day, of course. In game number 1, they did come second, so a really great victory for them. That is going to push them so high up the leaderboard. I can't wait to see where they finish.
Yeah, and you know what? Still a lot of other great teams, though, that competed in that game. Like we said, we saw Summer's team. They still made it towards close to the very end of the game. We see Kyoto's team, as they really tried to struggle through this end game, but they still made it to that 8th, 9th circle. Summer, again, looking for some crazy shots, as they are able to get a few eliminations there towards the end, keep themselves up. But ultimately, the winners of the day, Blue Cam Slam. These guys are absolutely nuts. I can't believe what they're doing today. They're doing some of the providing some of the best gameplay possible, Miner.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, that's game number 3. They've just shown the consistency so far. I mean, it's one thing to be consistent with placements. You can try and get your way into the placements, into the top 5s, top 10s, but to do it with eliminations, the risk that comes with getting eliminations in both early, mid, and late game is so great that I think it just makes their domination such a more, it has so much more meaning to it, doesn't it? It really does have a lot more weight to their sort of potential, and their really performance today has been absolutely splendid. So I'm excited to see what's going to be coming up on the leaderboards, whether they'll be able to hold their way at the top. I think they will, but we're going to find out what that means just after this short break.
Set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way. Yeah, you can find out, you on timeout. You been dealing with the devil, where you sign at? Yeah, oh Lord, you getting financed. Me, I'm talking ownership, baby, that's where my mind at. Try that, yeah, me, I threw my money down. And you know that it's good, we can skip the run around. And I don't need no yes, man, I'm all the way down. Yo, and I am not for sale, that's in case you couldn't tell, but y'all know better now. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. Real life better than the internet. Keep what you been selling, I ain't into that. We are doing business, this is simple math. I invest, you know I get it back, you believe that? Yeah. They asking what the fame like, tell them hang tight. Let me holler when the pay right. Put that on my damn life, you know I'm the man, right? Show them what the plan like, but y'all look slow, don't understand right, yeah. So tell me how you feel, baby, cause I've been working all the way up to a meal, baby. Yeah, man of the year, how I feel lately. You know the deal, baby, you know the drill, yeah, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah, man, I'm on my way, yeah, and I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way, said I'm on my way, yeah, I'm on my way, yeah, I'm on my way, yeah, and I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way, said I'm on my way. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way.
Welcome back, Fortnite fam, to the Play vs. Fall High School Finals event number 3. Miniminer, Unamuse Bryson here, casting the event for you. It's going to be so much fun to see how these end games are going to play out. We've got 3 more games to go. We've seen some great actions so far. Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, not failing to amaze right now, but look at this leaderboard. The domination from Flucam, Slam, Bryce, and Plague.
Wow. I mean, they were only 7 to 9 points ahead last game. And now look at that. I mean, we're looking at 30 to 40 points ahead. That is going to put them, oh no, more than that, almost 50 points ahead.
Wow.
That puts them in such a great position right now. It's going to be so hard for any other team to really kind of climb that ladder as long as Flucam is able to portray that type of gameplay that they've been doing for the past few games. But honestly, I really do not doubt that we're going to be seeing anything less than perfect from these guys, because they are ultimately just taking over the battlefield right now. But we still have a lot of teams behind them. I mean, look at Summer's team, Pump. They are still playing great. They're still doing a great job. As we have some other teams a little bit lower on the leaderboard. You know, you have some teams that could make a hefty comeback here, like Jordan's team, Newell's team, but they got to really make something happen within these next few games.
Yeah, they really do. We're seeing an absolute domination from Cam Bryce, and I mean, they're full trio. It's unbelievable. Every single one of them has been absolutely popping off. We're seeing elimination after elimination. They've had 10 eliminations, 12 eliminations, and 15 eliminations in their games so far. They haven't even got less than 10 eliminations in one of their games. So it's incredible to see the domination from them. But as you mentioned, there's plenty of opportunities for teams that are a little bit lower down to maybe clutch up and get themselves into the higher stages of the leaderboard, maybe getting themselves into the money, of course, as well, into that top 15. We spoke about it earlier, a very, very great prize pool on offer today. So it's going to be great to see how they play out the rest of these games. We're at the halfway point right now. So Bryson, if you were going into this game number 4, what would your thought be if you were maybe if you were Cam all the way up on top? How would you sort of solidify yourself into that top spot?
You know, it's really easy to still be, be very happy with yourself, but you got to be humble. And I know these players are thinking that. You know, Fortnite's such a big head game, and these guys know that they got to make sure that they stay on their A game. There is no reason for them to go down on the leaderboard whatsoever, and they know that. But they know it could happen, and they know how to make sure it doesn't happen. So I think players like this even though they know they kind of got this in the bag, they still got to be careful, and they still got to make sure they're playing these games strategically and not letting anything go wrong. And I think we're going to see that. But also, we have some teams that we're seeing in the lower end here that if they keep a powerful mentality, they come into these next few games and say, you know what, I'm going to make a comeback. And they're going to make that comeback because really, like we said, Fortnite is all about your mentality. If you stay positive, then anything could happen, Miner.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You mentioned it there, the mentality of the teams going into this game number 4. It's going to be exciting. And how are these teams going to manage their mentality? We're about to find out going into game number 4 right now. It's going to be an incredible game, I'm sure, from what we've seen so far from the first 3. As we saw in game number 3, though, we saw a lot of little differences in teams' drop spots. We see Steamy Stacks again being contested, but on the right side of the screen, we're seeing Eden, Hero, and Demar. These guys are looking as though they're uncontested at this area, sort of IO base on the top of the map, just outside of the orchard area. It's great to see a lot of these teams using these IO guard locations. They can really yield some great loot, of course, some great mats as well, Bryson. I like them.
Yeah, and you know what? It seems like a small area, but there's a lot that can go on here. You know, you're able to get easy brick and easy metal materials, and that's going to be great for the hard materials that you'll need, but also just having that extra pad that allows you to get out, and you have that IO card, which, like we know, goes fast. But look where we're at again. We're at Steamy Stacks, where we saw a pretty nail-biting beginning last game. As you know, a lot of teams ended up showing up here. We saw a lot of fighting. Now Brax is out of materials as he's trying to get up and help his team out as Rocket goes down, but he wasn't able to in the moment because he didn't have any materials at the time to get in. Now he's got to be careful as he's able to pick up the leftover materials from his teammate Rocket, and they're going to have to utilize this moment to try and take out another team. I think it is a 2v2, 2v1 situation here. So either way, they got to be looking, but Brax does have the advantage of height and health as he goes in for the elimination right here on Anazafai.
Can he go for this elimination? We see the combat pistol in his inventory as well, trying to utilize that to his advantage, which of course he does. That was very, very good from them. They won the off-spawn last game. Of course, we saw another team rotating on in, so I think both teams were really, really happy to take that fight really, really early on, and it's Baboon right there going down in this sort of like Hydro 16 area just outside of the Slurpy Swamp area, and it's Bezky who is managing to get the revive off on his teammate Tiago right there, and a high drag sticks now, and CK latched right now. These guys are having to rotate on in, try and save their teammate. If they can try and get that reboot card, of course they can try and get out, but it's going to be tough for them because the reboot card is encased in those hard builds. It's those brick, it's the metal. It's going to be tough. They're almost breaking open. It's like an Easter egg trying to find their teammate's reboot card if they can try and find it. But no, they're going to have some pressure from the opposite team as High Dragsticks takes the high ground very, very well. Only 3 builds to his name and only 9 shotgun shells in his shotgun as well. That's the only gun that he can use in this fight. In a 2v1 situation like this, when you haven't got the heals to heal yourself back up, it's going to be tough. Getting that first damage off is going to be so important can get the shots off. He can. He gets the wall, gets another great shot off. It's another great shot, but he only has that lever action shotgun. Finds the way around the back, gets another knock. That's a great knock. It's 2 knocks on Tiago right there. Tiago goes down again. No way. Is Hydraxic's about to clutch this for his team? It could be a little trio wipe, and I think it is. It's CK Latch who does take out Vezki. It's a lovely little wipe from the duo against the trio.
Wow, I did not expect that to happen, especially in the positioning where, I mean, the other team was able to get their teammate up, and it was a 3v2 situation. But like we were talking about earlier, with having those extra buses around those reboot vans, it makes it really easy for teams like that because they're able to just get their teammate up just like that. I mean, look at last season, we didn't have a reboot van. They're chilling over at the Hydro Dam area, and now we do. So during fights like this, they know that once they get their teammate's card, they're able to get them up immediately, and so take over that spot instead of having to rotate towards another POI, which might have a full other team there just waiting for him. So that's gonna be utilized really well. We're already seeing that just within a fight just like that. Or we're looking at Cloud's team right here, as they weren't able to do too much last game. And I think they're going to really try and go for something right here. But Minish, unfortunately, goes down and is completely eliminated. Now it's just going to be up to Cloud and Aperta as they're looking for some heavy fighting right here, as they're trying to get those quick eliminations. But Aperta is trying to disengage with this, and I'm sure Cloud is too, as they realize maybe this isn't smart for them. Maybe they do not stay within this fight.
Yeah, this is a crucial fight for them, and I think this disengage is something that we're going to see a lot of these teams do. We're at the midway point right now. We're going into game number 4, so I think this is a moment for them where they have to realize, okay, we haven't got too many games left. We've already played out 3. They were sat at 16th going into this game, so I think that definitely has a part to play. Not only their confidence, of course, in fighting, because I'm sure they would be confident in fighting that originally, but I think because of their situation, their position within the leaderboard, I think that definitely has an impact on the way that they fight this. But now that we're seeing a fight all the way out in the water right here, just outside of the Steam Stacks, is this hero team that are sort of rotating on into this area. He tries to take out another player. He does. Takes out 1. I think he takes out 2 there, as well as Eden, who takes out Rocket, the team that was winning the off-spawn engagement. But it's Hero, Dima, and Eden. I'm not too sure where these guys land. They might land the Orchard area, but I think they're really finding a lot of success by rotating into Steamy Stacks a little bit later on and picking up those eliminations, as we see Brax right there nearly going down in the air, because of course Hero and co, those guys are in 10th going into this game, so those eliminations are going to be so crucial to make their way into the end game, making sure they have that refresh, and of course that Storm Surge as well. And it looks as though, yeah, Dima does end up taking out Dragon, so it's that team, it's the demise of that team once again, and I think it's them being contested that's really thrown them off, because we saw in game 1, and I believe in game 2, they were uncontested, so they won game number 1. It's not quite going too well for them, for that trio, the Rocket trio at Steamy Stacks. Hop on board with Neko right now, and Chris and Candle just outside on top of this sort of hill area, a very popular area, nicknamed Zate Hill by the professional player and hoster of a lot of the sort of third-party scrims. We're seeing Zate, of course, dominating this whole area, and we're seeing Candle and Chris and Neko, these guys trying to use that to their advantage as well, if they can try and find some tags on this team that are rotating on just down to the petrol station area. As you mentioned earlier, it's a really good place to rotate to. You get some metal, you get some brick, and of course you do get those vending machines as well.
Yeah, and those vending machines can be crucial, especially when you get a lot of easy heals from them. A lot of teams are able to utilize that. It looks like we're getting a 3v3 right here, you know, as Candle's team is kind of pushing forward. They're looking for those storm tags. Now, they don't necessarily need it for this first set, because we already are down to 67 players, but that does not mean that they're going to be needing it later on, because they easily will. Now, we're looking at some a little bit of a different type of fight here, as the other team is still trying to make their way towards Candle. Candle was alone there for a moment. Now it looks like we easily have everybody together. And this might be the moment that they either decide, let's push this, or let's kind of just get a better positioning. But it looks like that's exactly, they're using both, as they're looking for a height position, but still trying to push in on this fight. As we see Nico's team pulling forward by himself, while the other two were kind of, you know, giving a little bit of a divergence here. Now they're really trying to get in on here. They're looking for some eliminations. They're getting those shots raining down. This is going to be different. One thing they might be able to utilize is shooting one of the pumps that are there, one of the gas station pumps, because it could blow up the spot and take out the other team faster. That's where fire can come in, but it looks like Candle's going to be really trying to utilize, as he's trying to get a few extra mats while he's still looking for some shots here. Now it looks like Christ's team is looking still. They're on height. They're still pulling this position, but Demo's got to make something happen here, and you got to be careful for a team like this. You know, we know that Demo's team knows how to hit their shots, so they might feel like they have this all to themselves and they might feel like they have this fight in the bag, but then Demo comes out of nowhere, someone on his team, and they easily take out one of the players just like that. And we've seen that just with the last fight that we saw earlier in this game, that anything could happen. And like I said right there, Chris's takedown 2 just right away, almost taken down, but Demo then goes down. So now it's going to be a little bit more of a less level playing field here.
Yeah, we saw a very, very patient team turn into a very aggressive team right there, or as Chris right there, just hopping right into the box. It was a very risky play from him, and now Candle is all alone, left to try and rotate, pick up the pieces under the bridge, as it looks as though Chris and Neko have both gone down. It was very, very odd from them. It looked as though they were trying to be very, very patient. One wrong move, one jump into a box, all those builds, of course, that weren't yours. It's almost impossible then to win that engagement because you don't know what builds are yours. You don't know where you could be edited from, the different angles coming into play as well. And for that, Fika, Simon, and Demo, these guys will be very, very happy with that. They almost played into their domain right there, and it really helped them out with the way that they were able to pick up that refresh and, of course, that loot. Now, Impacts and the ISO, these guys are thinking, okay, well, it looks as though the team that were up on this hill have decided to leave it, so we will take this for ourselves. A fantastic place to pick up some surge spots, but not without some fire from opposing teams, as ISO looks as though he could be on the receiving end of some damage and maybe even getting eliminated himself, as it looks as though maybe 2 or 3 teams are battling out for that high ground position. It's such a commanding position. As you see the zone on the left side of the screen, there's not too many hills inside of the zone, so the higher up you can be, the earlier on, it's going to be so impactful for these teams, as Impacts making sure that he can farm his way back up to as much materials as possible. As ISO there maybe was a little bit shaken by that, a little too close for comfort for him, as he's now popping a medkit to get himself back up to full HP, but nearly a little wobble from them.
Now, it looks like they might be having a team that was fully pushing them right there just at that last second. But now we're getting over to Nielsen's team, Void and Meal GFX, as they're kind of looking for a fight right here, too. Looks like they're able to take out one of the players, making it a 3-1 situation. But GFX was hit heavy right there, so he's going to have to take a second to kind of reimburse himself and kind of get some of those heals back off. But either way, I think they sort of have this fight in the bag. They're kind of looking for some quick shots. As Clutch has completely almost been eliminated there. His health has been knocked almost to a full 0. So now GFX is right on top, getting those quick heals back in. The only one of their teammates that has full health is Hydra. So the other Void and them, if they're able to get the shots off quick, they're going to be able to take Hydra's team out fast. Now look at Void as he's getting those quick box fights in. They don't have any crazy shotgun loaders. It looks like you just have just a regular version of the pump within all of them. And that's not the greatest gun to have, but still, it's better than nothing. Now Void was taken down, but I think it is a 2v1 situation now. So it should be easy for them as long as Mealsun and GFX play together. But Mealsun almost goes down, and this is going to be tough as Void is down. Mealsun and GFX are still playing together. Now they got to be careful here. GFX is taking on to the fight right now by himself. As you know, we saw Mealsun trying to get his heals off there for a moment. He's got Hydra. They're going against Hydra too, and we've seen Hydra play these games earlier, and he plays competitively. He knows what he's doing. Looks like GFX was hit heavy right there. This is going to be tough for him. I think he's kind of trying to reevaluate the situation a little bit and kind of get back down to the low ground for him and Mealsun. He kind of looked to get a little bit of a revive here, but unfortunately, Void is fully taken out from the storm.
Yep, fully taken out indeed. Now it's left to a duo. It's a duo versus a solo, but it looks as though the duo seem to be on the back foot. They're the ones that look to be in a bit of a worse situation at this current stage. It's Mealsun and GFX. If these guys can win this engagement, that's going to be so crucial for them, because it looks as though the zone is so far away as well, so the medkits might be having to come out as well. Hydraxis, of course, on the other end of this. Maybe they might want to just disengage, pick up their teammate Void's reboot card, or are they going to go for this elimination? I think they should really go for this elimination, because this is a crucial moment in the game for them. They can pick up an easy elimination right here. It's a 2v1. If they play it out well, they play it out together, they're being very, very patient. As Hydraxis right now, they're utilizing these SMGs, these upgraded compact SMGs, such a power weapon, especially when applying pressure into the low ground section. It looks like Mealsun was going in as GFX was disengaging there. Maybe a little bit of a miscommunication from them. They almost have to make a decision and stick with it. You know, they have to say, okay, are we going for this? Yes or no? And the decision is no. GFX and Mealsun, they've decided to rotate on out, utilizing that launch pad really early on. They have to be very careful with popping that medkit out in the open as well, but as they've identified to make a little box right there for him. But that was an interesting fight deep into the storm there.
Yeah, you know what? The circle was nowhere to be seen once we saw him launch pad there. It was far out there, and that's going to be tough for both teams. You know, we might not see either of them be able to make it in. It's going to be difficult, especially going into that third zone. We're taking those 2 ticks on the storm, and that's what makes it hard for a lot of these players if they're stuck that far out there. You know, their health goes down faster than they think. We're looking at Creo's team, a team we haven't really seen a lot of, but they're not doing completely awful today. They're actually playing decent, and I want to see them really dominate an endgame here because I know these players are good. I've seen them before in the past, and I know they know what they're doing. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, but we still have Impact's team too, as they're kind of hanging out looking for some more shots right on the edge of circle, as Creo is also kind of hanging out around there too, that they all got to be as careful as possible. Now, this was a team that we saw earlier, as we saw Izo. He got hit heavy as they were rotating, if you remember that, when they're going up for that Zay Hill. But he was able to get himself back to full health, putting this team back in a decent positioning as long as they all play together in this moment.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It seems like they've gained a fourth member of the trio as well. It looks as though one of the NPCs have joined them on the Zay Hill area, so maybe they're going to be leaving them now. Maybe that might be leaving them quite sad, that NPC, but it's okay. They're going to rotate on in as Impact's Madcast and Izo, they're rotating in. And unfortunately for them, their hill zone was not for them. The zone was just outside of that tall hill, so not an ideal situation for them. But Creo, Pers, and Informal, these guys, I believe, were the team that were trying to push them, so maybe battling out for that high ground might have burned a few of their materials, but right now it's looking as though they're looking pretty good. They're trying to find as many tags as possible with 0 eliminations to their name. This is absolutely crucial moments for them, as a lot of these teams are going to be rotating on in. They're in a good position to try and find as many tags as they can, but without getting tagged themselves is what's going to be crucial, as Creo does take some shots from the opposite angle. The emote's coming out there as well from Pers. Shows they're relaxed, they're chilling, they're thinking, yes, we have this in the bag, we can emote as much as we like. But I think, yep, there we go, Creo showing us his best moves right there as well. I like this. I like it when players emote, you know. I think it's such a great part of competitive, and I like them showing their personality.
I do too. I think it adds a little bit of a comical ideal to the game. A game that's taken so seriously by some of these competitive players that it allows us to know that although these kids are trying their hardest, they're doing the best they can, they still want to realize that this is a game and this is meant to be fun. And that's what's great about Fortnite, is it really is such a fun game for how far it's come to, especially with the competitive scene, and seeing how some of these players are now playing is amazing. But let's look at our number 1 team right here, Flucam Slam. They're all still fully alive, full health. They're chilling on mats, they're chilling on health, they're chilling on pretty much everything right now as they go in for this supply drop. Hopefully getting them maybe what we might see as like an epic or legendary pump. And it looks like they were able to get the epic lever. Now we might see some players do not prefer to carry a lever. Instead, they would rather either leave it on the ground or change it into a charge. And if a player knows how to use it, and if a player knows how to use a charge, that's going to be a lethal weapon later on in the game, especially when coming into some of these teams that play really well together. But look at Cloud, as Cloud is a team we saw doing pretty decent last game, but look at them now. He is all by himself. As Aperta and them are completely taken out, Cloud is going to have to carry this game as a solo clutch, because it's going to be almost impossible to get a reboot going on right now.
Yeah, I think it's almost out of the question at this stage. Of course, there is a reboot van in the zone, of course, with the Risky Reels reboot. Another one of those reboot vans that have been introduced as part of Season 8, of course, giving so many more reboot vans into the map, but I really don't think it's possible. It's going to be tough. You're going to get focused, and of course, when you do get rebooted, you don't have many materials. You only have 100 wood, and that is definitely not going to be enough to hold off the fire from the teams that are already boxed up. So I think it's going to have to be a solo clutch from him right there. But we see DJ, Zedfish, and Bludge. These guys are looking pretty good. They haven't got any eliminations yet, but the heals, especially for DJ right here, he's got 6 big pots, 6 big pots, 6 minis as well as the launch pad potential as well. So such a crucial position for them to be in. They can look at people rotating in. They have the potential for that. That's a harpoon play as well, so they can take high ground with that launch pad if they do see fit. They do have that purple pump shotgun as well. This Lethal's team over on the other side of Risky. So this team are looking very, very solid in their plays right now. As no, Kroloro FN looks as though he's going to get beamed on the rotate, trying to make their way in on foot. It's always a tough one when you're making your way in this late. There's always teams that are set up and ready to beam you.
Yeah, you know what? You got to be careful moving forward, especially like that. Now, luckily, it looks like Rolo was the only one who was taking those shots heavily, because everyone else seems to be doing decent and everything. Now, you might think, oh, this isn't good because we're losing health. But another thing that's really going on right here is a lot of these teams are having to waste their mats and getting into these 5th and 6th, 7th zones where you have to really focus on tarping. You need as much material as possible. You know, you cannot afford to be wasting any material during these points right here. So a lot of these teams, they got to be careful. And now we're looking at a split right there as those teams are trying to kind of portion their mats out, kind of use them scarcely as they know that they got to be careful with what they have left. But let's look at a team right here, because this team that we have really seen very little of today. Very little, but it looks like now this end game, they might be wanting to change that, as it looks like they're pulling a little bit of a hype play right here, going into that 5th zone. Storm Surge is not active. We do not have to worry about that. With 47 people, though, still on the board, they've got to be careful. Now, it looks like they easily pulled a decent positioning right here, not having to worry too much, but instead they can just look for as many tags as possible and hopefully get a few eliminations while they're doing this at the same time.
Yeah, they really want to add to their elimination tally across the day. Of course, 0 eliminations so far for them. We saw on the scoring format earlier on how important eliminations are, and I think that's really why Flucam, Slam, and Co have been able to separate themselves. They've been able to sort of socially distance themselves from the rest of the lobby with their eliminations, and that's really what's been able to get them all the way on the top of the leaderboard. So getting onto that hike really, really early on can have its advantages, can have its disadvantages as well, but if you can play it out right, you can get the refreshes with those harpoons, it can definitely be done. We saw it in the previous game. One of the teams went up for high ground a little bit too early and they sort of ran out of steam. They couldn't find those refreshes, but I'm confident in that team to go and take home this game if they can hold on to that high ground. Because the mid-ground layers we're seeing right now, Informal, Purrs, and Korea, these guys not having too good of a day rotating on in here because they're getting beamed from the high ground team, who are looking down, of course, as we mentioned earlier, how important the high ground could be to getting that increased damage, that increased headshot multiplier, especially when you're talking about purple and gold assault rifles, maybe even you're talking about burst assault rifles, the mythics coming into play as well. It's crazy to see who can get on top of the high ground and do that damage nice and early on, and I like the way that they're setting themselves up here. You can see them on the high ground, they're looking, they're actively seeking out players to try and beam because, as you said, they don't have any eliminations.
Yeah, and you know what? This is where it gets real difficult going into such a small compressed area, but we're still with 45 people alive. This is when it gets really hard for some of these players, especially as they're trying to, you know, tarp around, trying to use their movement, rotate. But then you have teams like this, a team that we really haven't seen much today, like I was talking about earlier, Kuz, they're really staying still on height. This is where it's going to get difficult for them because they have a full haul. So one of the smarter things that you'll see a lot of players do is they'll end up taking a pad and get ahead, and then they'll build back up to height because these are guys that want height. I mean, if they're already on it right now, you know this is something they want. They're going to try and go for it as much as possible. Utilizing those chili peppers, looks like they're going to move forward a little bit, but it might not be to an avail as there's other teams still around them that haven't gone yet, making this a little bit of a difficult rotation as Liv was just taken down, but still, the other two teammates are still alive. They might be able to make something happen here. We have seen solo and duo clutches throughout these end games before. It just can get super difficult, but Impact's team with Max and Izo are still moving forward. They're all together. They're able to get a little bit of a rotate forward with those launch pads, as now they just need a tarp forward. They're in that kind of corny area as we have the corn. It's the Midwest. We're seeing these guys really trying to move themselves forward, but we still see teams like Flucam, Slam, the teams you do not want to run into in these end games, because these are the teams that are full barreling forward like a train, and they're not letting anybody in their path stay alive. They're making sure everybody's eliminated that they see, and this is where it really comes down to right now, Miner.
This is where it all comes down to, indeed. We're seeing 36 players alive. There's still 6 players do need to go down for that Storm Surge to be negated. Of course, we're seeing Zed Fisher and Co right now. We saw them in a really, really good position going into this end game, but now the zone is going to be horrible to them. They've got to pull all the way. They've got to go so far to make their way in. Maybe they see a launch pad potential, or maybe a little storm tank going outside. Yeah, they do have the launch pad on the sort of the less congested side of zone right there. And now, though, we talked about it earlier. This team who did take high ground a little bit earlier on, Javor and Kuz, they didn't quite, they weren't able to contain that high ground and make sure they can make it theirs as it's Summer and it's Durant. These guys who won the previous game up on high ground, they're trying to replicate that success once again picking up eliminations along the way as Bludge right there goes down in the feed. It's Plague though, Flucam, Slam, and Bryce. These guys not quite having as many eliminations as we have seen from them so far, but I'm sure, as you can see, utilizing the free sets so well. They're getting inside of these players' box, they're holding them. They're almost having to battle with the Storm, and the Storm of Flucam Slam. Of course, that is no easy Storm to fight against either, as he takes out Bacon right there. Cam Slam, Summer trying to drop down, trying to find a refresh, and this is what we talked about. Getting those refreshes is going to be so crucial for keeping high ground.
And look at Summer as they're easily getting those shots off as they're looking for those quick refreshes. Also just making sure to frag out and get some eliminations. 8 eliminations on their kill feed right now, though. That's going to be huge for them going into this. Even if they don't, we get a victory royale this game. But we still have some other teams moving forward. Look at Riot's team, another team we haven't seen much. They're still going forward, all 3 of them. We have Flucam, Slam. They're all 3 still alive on the board, getting quick eliminations. But as I say that, Bryce goes down. But still, we know how Flucam, we know how Plague play. They are still going to be able to go crazy these next few games. Riot and Conman still looking for some quick stuff as we're getting into that final zone as it is closing, and the Storm is going to be the only thing left on this island. A lot of these teams are going to have to really play for their best. Now Summer looks like they lost a member as Tarantula was taken out, and it's just Summer and Pump. Summer hit with a pretty hefty shot. Looks like they're going to have to make themselves way back up on height. They can't afford to get taken down again. They can't afford anything, but look at that. We have literally 12 eliminations on their team. That is a great game so far, Minor. That is a great game for them, but still Riot and Conman and Waves, a team we still haven't seen a lot of. They're all 3 together. They're playing hip to hip. They know they got to make something happen this game. They know they need to go for a victory royale, as there's only 5 teams left, 8 people left on the board. This is where it all comes down to, will they be able to make something happen, or is it going to be Pump and Summer that come forward? Are they going to get another win? Are they really trying to compete for that first place and take on Flucam Slam, as Flucam Slam is playing by himself? A little bit of a solo clutch here. He was taken out though. Now we just have Pump and Summer on height as they're looking for something here. They're trying to make something happen. It looks like it is a little bit of a situation here with just a few people left. There's not a lot going on right now as Pump is trying to get those heavy shots as Summer drops down, but Summer was taken out, and it's just going to be Pump hanging out on height as there's only 2 teams left. A 2v1 situation. Is Pump going to be able to take this for himself, or is they going to have to just settle with the second place? But it is 1v1 as Pump's team comes forward. Wow, what a game. 15 eliminations, Minor. This is going to be so interesting. They are really trying to make a play to get to that first place. They're letting Flucam Slam know that, you know what, you guys aren't going to be holding that for too long.
Well, you know what, Pump, Durant, and Summer right there, I think they might have given Flucam Sam a little bit of ring. I think they said, hello, Flucam Sam, how do you do that? How do you get a high elimination victory royale? I think they told him, and I think that was a mistake right there, because they've managed to come out on top with a Flucam Slam style elimination, high elimination victory royale. They took a leaf out of their book, and they've only gone and done it. It's their second victory royale of the day. That's going to be so crucial, but we got to talk about it. Another solo clutch from Flucam Slam to keep his team afloat, to probably keep his team up on top. It's going to be exciting to see what happens with the leaderboard. Flucam Slam, again, his team picking up, is that 8 eliminations at the end there? So a really, really good game from them. We've seen how important eliminations are. Of course, we can't ignore, though, Summer, Pump, and Durant. Those guys have managed to clutch up on high ground yet again.
Wow, and you know what? Flucam Slam, though, still played phenomenal there. Coming in with another solo clutch, like you said, that might still keep them up there on the leaderboard. I'm not totally sure, but he did stay alive throughout most of the game there, but there's still a lot of other teams too. You know, we saw some other teams there towards the end there that we did not realize that we hadn't seen really throughout the game. So it's going to be interesting to see where they're at in the standings. But before we see those standings, let's take a little bit of a break, and then we'll get right back into the action for you guys.
What is up, Fortnite fam, and welcome back to the PlayVS 4 High Schools event, final number 3. I'm your host, Minimana, joined alongside the wonderful Animes Bryson. It's been an absolute blast casting the first 4 games so far. We've still got 2 more to go, Bryson, and what do you think is going to happen?
Whew. You know what? We still have some teams that are really pushing in this first place. I mean, you got Fluke Cam Slam, you got Summer's team. They're all trying to make sure they stay in that top 5 regardless. But it's going to be interesting seeing some of these other teams that are still straggling behind a little bit, if they can really make something happen here within these next 2 games. Because there's only 2 games left. Like you said, just 1 game can really change the playing field. But it's really going to be exciting to see what, these top few teams that we've seen really dominate, especially with Summer and Fluke Cam Slam's team. A lot of different things have been going on. Now, let's look at the standings right now. Fluke Cam Slam is still in first, but we see Summer coming up, which they were nearly around 50 points behind the last game. Now, it looks like they're only close to around 20 points behind, so they're making their way back up there, Miner.
Yeah, they really are. They're really trying to go for the first place spot. The mighty Fluke Cam Slam and Co. They might be thinking a little bit, maybe a little bit worried right now. They might be thinking this team could be a potential threat, which they haven't really been challenged all day today. It's more just been a smooth road, smooth sailing for them so far. Now boasting a higher average placement as well as Pump, Summer, and Durant. So really, really great from them, of course, as well. But moving on to the sort of lower section of the leaderboard, we're seeing Mad Cats as well, of course, there. They had a pretty decent last game, getting a nice 12th with 3 3 eliminations, so keeping themselves in and around that sort of top 15, which, as we mentioned earlier, is of course where the money is. Getting into that top 15 is all the way up to first, of course, is going to get you a hefty chunk of change for these players. This is a very, very exciting tournament to play in for a lot of these players, and a really, really great tournament to watch, because we've already seen 4 of the finest games of competitive Fortnite. We've seen high ground, we've seen low ground, we've seen mid ground scuffles, we've seen it all, and we've even seen the sideways getting involved in some of the games as well, sort of expanding out and getting involved and breaking all the builds. It's been so much fun, and we've still got 2 more games to go, Bryson.
Yeah, and you know what? There's been a lot of hefty end games, a lot of Storm Surge being in play here. We got a lot of these players, they're playing for that placement. You know, we haven't really seen, although we've seen some teams come out with some heavy eliminations by the end of the game, we haven't seen any crazy, you know, WT type of games per se. A lot of it's still been these players really trying to focus on getting those placement points. And that's the type of Fortnite that I love to see. I love to see these hefty end games. I don't know about you, but we're just watching players as they're tarping, as they're working as a team. You know, Trios is so team oriented. You can't play by yourself. You got to play together here.
Yeah, you really do. It's all about that team chemistry. I think that's really where it's going to come into play, because going into game number 5 right now, the penultimate game of today's tournament, it's going to be exciting. It's finals, it's Fortnite, and it's fantastic. We've got Summer, Duran, and Pump, of course, landing at their coveted Catty Corner area. We see Eden, Dmart, and Hero, of course. Those guys are very, very good as well. They're up on the higher end of the leaderboards. We saw them popping off earlier on as well. Not having the best last game with an 11th with 7 eliminations, but they're up on the leaderboards as well. Of course, Summer, Pump, and Durantula. And it looks as though, yeah, it is a purple pump already for Summer and his team. So that's a really, really great poll going off the straight off the bat here. I mean, Catty Corner, Bryson, what do you think about Catty Corner? Do you like it as a POI?
You know what? It's a POI that I enjoy, but it's definitely one you got to be careful, because we have the per se weather station right up there on the top of the hill, and if another team lands there and you're not ready, they could easily come down. They could get some quick shots on you. But I've also seen a lot of players that know that, and they take Catty Corner fast, and they utilize peppers or other situations like that, and they get up there and they take over weather station quicker than possible. You just got to be careful in either situation here, because it could go either way. But still, Catty Corner is a decent POI. There's a lot you can get there. But we're already going over here right outside of Misty, as Dom's team is in a little bit of a quarrel here as they're taking on, looks like they were fighting, but it looks like it is a 2v3 situation, as Dom team is on top right now with Kyoto. They just got to make sure they play together here. It looks like they're a little bit separated, and they don't want to keep that going.
Yeah, they really don't. I mean, we talked about this before, these sort of corrupted areas being such a crucial element of the game. You know, they can act as pinch points, plenty of different POIs, or sort of funneling into these areas. So that's why we're seeing a lot of fights being taken. Dom right there, though, picking up an early elimination. Despite not having the best loot going into this, he's going to be happy with that elimination just on the sort of small island to the north of Misty Meadows. There's a nice little spire area right there as well, which he can use to farm up, maybe use to rotate, as well as Ghosty, Proxy, and Braden. These guys are rotating using a taxi with those Chonkers tires as well. A fantastic addition to the game. I believe in Season 6 those were introduced, so a really, really great option for them to rotate in nice and early. Now, though, Denzi, the only option for him is himself. He's a solo. He's having to try and clutch up. He hasn't quite managed to find any eliminations yet to his name, and he's not going to find any more, because he does go down to the yield of Candle right there.
Wow, and then look at this, as Proxy, Ghosty, and Braden are still in the fight, but Ghosty's, he's got to kind of get back a little bit and look to put a little bit of shield on, as he knew, you know, even though they had the advantage, he didn't want to make sure he threw his game just like that. Now Proxy and them, they're all getting back together. They're disengaging. They're going to take the spot as they grab a little bit of the taxi here, and they're making their way towards Lazy. They still got to be careful, but look at our number 2 team right now, Summer, Pump, and Durantula. They're kind of rotating themselves out. They're kind of taking this side rotate as they're going towards the dead side here, going out towards kind of the retail area. This is a decent spot to rotate if you're able to pull this zone, because there's a lot in this spot. There's a lot that you can run into for loot.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think we've seen Summer, Pum, and Durantula. We've seen these guys having this mythic burst assault rifle in many, or if not every single endgame that they have been taking part in. So I think that's going to be so crucial for them. Almost makes Catty Corner one of the most powerful POIs in the game at the moment, having that ability to rotate into this sort of bunker area, an area that was previously blocked up. You know, nobody knew what was going to happen. What was behind those big, heavy doors? You know, could it be something to do with the map? Could it be something to do with of maybe a storyline. But what we found inside, we found some 5 chest spawns, we found some of these Dr. Sloan NPCs as well. And of course, as you can see right there, we're finding ourselves a nice mythic burst assault rifle, a fantastic weapon to use, especially in that late game. And I think that's really what's allowing them to take that high ground, because they're being able to beam the high ground from the lower section of the game and really getting those shots off. And as is Bacon, who's landing right on top of someone, it's not going to work out for him though, as Jerema now has to try and pick up the pieces as he can. Can he get that elimination? I don't think he's going to be able to though, because he's lost his teammate. Nerface now is his only teammate, and it's now Bacon who has gone down. Jerema trying to pick up the pieces while trying to pick up some shots, which he does. He's getting some great shots off with that great lever action shotgun, but no, there's 3, there's so many people that he has to try and contend with. He's on the back foot, and it's now Nerface having to try and put the pressure on as well. He does of course have that gold compact SMG, but no, there's another team. It's Rocket and Co who are rotating on in.
Yeah, and you know what? Bacon was a little humbled a little bit there, as he was trying to have a little bit of a sneak attack, but it did not work out for his favor. You know, they took him out pretty fast there. But now we're over here with his team. They're facing Jerema, as they're kind of trying to rotate out. They realize there's not going to be a lot they can do now, and it'd be smarter for them to just leave their player's card. But like we talked about, the cards have such a longer time on them now that you can kind of disengage and take some time to recoup and then go back and get it. It's not like it used to be where it was pretty fast that would go. But look at Cloud as he gets in there on some quick elimination as they're moving in towards a hefty box fight. They're trying to get some fighting going right here as they go in on the other team. Looks like they're going to be able to take them out pretty fast here.
Yeah, they really do. That's a great elimination for them. Of course, dominating that retail row area. It's a great trio wipe. And of course, there is a reboot van over towards the sort of eastern side of retail row as well. So they can now pick their team up nice and early. Aperta, of course, such a vital element of that trio. Each of them picking up an elimination. And that's such a crucial fight for them to win, because they, at the moment, they're not in like an amazing position. They're just in 14th going into game number 5. But they could definitely clutch it up. And especially winning those off-spawn fights, getting those eliminations and getting that loot, it could really propel them into the end game.
Yeah, and look at these car rotates. You know, the big thing that's been added in the Fortnite over the past few seasons was the new wheels. And that's been such a drastic change to the game. You know, cars are already huge to add into Fortnite, but being able to have wheels that make them kind of off-road and go faster really helps other players utilize these cars as rotates, as we're seeing multiple different people, you know, in cars with these off-road reels, because it allows you to take whatever car you want, and you're still going to be able to go at decent speed. You're still going to be able to climb up hills, and that gives a lot of people just better situations. Or we're looking over at Chris, as Chris is looking for some shots while he's still deep in the storm. His team's a little bit split here, as Candle and Nico are a little bit to the side. He's got to be careful, but he's still looking to get those quick surge shots because he knows they need it. He knows that's what they're going to have to really be looking for coming into this final end game, or the second end game.
Yeah, they do, of course, have 3 eliminations to their name already, so the Storm Surge shouldn't be too much of a problem for them. But when you have the use of this purple assault rifle, the upgraded version of the assault rifle, it's such a fantastic weapon to use, especially for this off-spawn engagement here. But no, you can see them. They're so deep into the storm here, and you can see the little blue arrows to the left side of your screen. That's how split this team are. Chris, Candle, and Nico, these guys are so split from each other that it's almost dangerous, because they might get jumped. One of them could get jumped on by the opposing team, which is such a bad situation to be in. When you're that deep into the storm, when your teammates aren't nearby, they're playing very, very risky right now, and that's definitely something that you have to be careful of. Now, speaking of risky, we're seeing a fight engaged just outside of the Risky Reels area, as Carve, Swirl, and AOC, they're still alive, they're still healthy, they're still well, but how much longer will they be in that situation for? Maybe they're going to try and find a couple of eliminations to pick up some easy points right here, as Fluklam Slam getting himself another elimination. Swirl going down to the fight of Profit right there. Some great eliminations right there. 2 eliminations for Profit. Warrior right now, who has taken out 2 players, which is fantastic for him and his team to rotate on through to this endgame. Taking out some players that early on, especially when there's so many teams nearby, I think getting those fights done quickly is so important.
Yeah, exactly. You're 100% right. Especially when you're looking at aspects like Storm Surge and just knowing that you're going to be safe for the rest of the game and having that just extra loot too. It just puts you up on points. It's definitely the better position to be in. Now we're kind of looking at Hero and Eden's team. They've lost Demur, and so they got to be careful as this other team is pushing in, and it looks like it might be a little bit of a 3v2 situation. But like we know, that doesn't mean anything. Even though that might put them at a disadvantage, they might still be able to make something happen. And knowing with third parties running around, anything could go on. Seems like there's a lot going on around this Risky Reveals area right now, so a lot of these teams still got to be careful, and it looks like they do have a quick escape too if they need to get out of here, considering they do have those launch pads.
Yeah, the launch pad being used is so important as well. Having that potential gives you so many options. It gives you so much freedom in the end game, because of course you can utilize it to rotate in maybe when it's half and half or moving zones, but what it also allows you to do is sort of box up in a less than favorable position. Maybe you're not going up onto that high elevation, maybe you're trying to box up just below a big hill, because you don't really have to worry too much about the next zone. You have that launch pad to get yourself out of that sticky situation. So I like the way that they're playing that. They're playing the edge, and they don't have to go for anything too crazy because of the uses of that launch pad. Now they were hopping back on board with Plague, Flucam Slam, and Bryce, who it looks as though their sort of talisman here, the Flucam Slam potential has been, he's gone, he's out, he's been eliminated, and now it's up to Plague and Bryce to try and pick up the pieces and try and pick up their teammate with a potential reboot later on down the line. This is the first time we've seen these guys in a less than favorable position going into the end game.
Yeah, but you know what? This is just the time that we need to see Bryce and them really kind of show their standout in there. It's their time to shine. You know, Flucam's really taken a lot of the spotlight today, which they've all been playing great, but this is really a time for them. If they're not able to get Flucam up, then they're going to have to really carry this end game for themselves, but that doesn't mean we aren't going to see it. Now, here's a team we haven't seen any of today. Crispy Tree looks like they're looking for a fight, but it's going to be good for them as he's able to get those edits in. He was able to get that cone in some basic box fighting mechanics. But they got to make sure they have this, because like I said, we have not seen much from them today, considering they're probably pretty high up there on the leaderboards in a worse position. So they really want to make something happen with these two games if they want to walk out with a chunk of change.
Yep, 5 eliminations for them already as well, so they're really looking to add to that. They're hunting them down. They're like a pack of wolves, trying to sniff out the opponents, trying to find them. Maybe just a slither of hope for them with a little edit, which is what they get, but it's not going to be able to be worked out in their advantage as they do take a big shot themselves. Of course, those charged shotguns coming into play once again. It's Diminished who's holding that fully charged. Any little angle that he can find to try and get some big damage off, he will. And of course, when you're holding that fully charged, it increases the damage output. It increases the range of that damage as well. It's such a powerful weapon to have in these mid-game engagements. As you can see right there, a big 130 from Diminished, but not without taking some damage himself. He already has 2 eliminations. This is 2 teams fighting who have a lot of eliminations. They're not fighting for Storm Surge. They're fighting for points. They're fighting for refreshes. They're fighting to have a really, really solid end game, as we see them all trying to go for the spray down play right now, maybe having to heal himself up as well. I think he almost forgot about that 85 HP situation, but he's able to heal himself back up. Maybe they all want to get together and use those chug splashes, or are they going to rely on the siphon to get their way back up? I think they're going to go for this, the chug splash option, as there seems to be so many teams fighting just outside of this convergence area.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And there's a few teams that we talked about that we're starting to see kind of make a little bit of a difference here. They want to make something happen. Crispy Tree's entire team is still on the board right now. They're all still alive because they're focusing on a little bit of a box fight. They're looks like they're going against some other guys that we haven't really seen a lot of, but there's a lot going on outside of the convergence. So they got to be careful. You know, the last thing you want is to get third party. That's where a lot of games will just end just like that. And it's really not in your favor whatsoever, because there's so little you can control about it once people start third partying you. It looks like they're pushing forward towards Void's team, another team we've seen play pretty well today, as he's really trying to get in, and he fully gets in there, but it might have not have been the best choice, as he was in alone as he made that execution right there.
Yeah, a very, very valiant effort from him, but of course, being fallen to a full trio, managed to take out one right there. As Prophet Warrior now left to pick up the pieces all on his own if he can. He does already have 3 eliminations, so we know he knows how to get those, but is he going to be able to do it against a duo? It's a 2v1 situation. Drops in 160, 31-31, fantastic elimination from Prophet. He's showing he can do it, and he can do it in style. Another great shot from the other player right there as well. He gets another elimination, and that was so crucial from Prophet Warrior to clutch up for his team. That is that team's 7th elimination of the game. Is he going to be able to pick up his teammates, though? That is what's going to be most crucial here.
Wow, they are really wanting to make something happen. And, you know, we've talked about it every game, Miner. Anything can happen within these games. And just like this shows a team that we really haven't seen much of is all of a sudden trying to dominate right now. That's exactly what they're doing. I mean, look at how he just took out those two players, making it a 1v1 situation. Now he's going to focus on getting out of here and finding that reboot ban, because that's what he needs. He needs a reboot ban. He needs a quick revive. And then once he gets that out, he's going to be able to they're going to be able to be back on top. But the reboot ban he's going for is contested. Looks like he's going to have to go back a little bit. He knows that it's not a smart move. There's a lot of people around him right now, Miner. This is getting nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it really is. And every second that he waits to reboot his teammate, the zone closes and is about to close more and more, which gives him less and less options as he does wait. So he has to make a decision nice and early. Will he risk his game, of course, going and maybe trying to get his teammates up? Of course, there is two of them, so it could be worth it. Or does he play it out as a solo? Almost guarantee some decent placements if he can clutch up as a solo. They do have that Storm Surge as well, especially him as a solo as well, picking up 4 eliminations on his own. So he definitely has that Storm Surge sorted out, so it's almost it's a decision he has to make. Do I go for the revive and risk my whole team getting eliminated, or do I go for it as a solo? And it looks as though he's gone for the former, because he's trying to get his teammates up with this reboot van, not without Pump and Durant. Those guys are trying to reboot their teammate as well. Of course, we saw their teammate going down, and that is the battle of the reboot van. Prophet Warrior finally falling, not without a fight, though. He did manage to get a little bit of a few eliminations right there, but unfortunately for them, they have gone down.
What a valiant effort, though, man. You know, they had a great amount of eliminations there. That was still a decent game for him. They should be proud of how he played there. Just unfortunately weren't able to make it to that end game. But now we're looking at Candle's team. They're pushing in on Void's team that's right outside of that reboot. I think one team Void was just recently rebooted. The rest of the team, so it's going to be a quick, could be a quick finish for Candle and them if they get in here quick. But they got to be careful, because we know all these players know how to play this game. They're all decent, very mechanically gifted when it comes to Fortnite, and a lot could happen here as Candle gets taken down fast. Now into 85 regular HP. He's got to be careful as he's trying to recoup back in, but he goes in on another team and gets that quick elimination. Just completely trio wiping right there. These guys are going crazy. They're also trying to make something big happen right now, Runner.
Yeah, that was Bony Meal right there. That's the solo we saw earlier on. But now, though, for Candle and Co., these guys have to rotate in the back of the Storm. They do have the heals to heal themselves back up if they do manage to make their way in. But at this stage, with all these teams like Informal who are already situated, they're sitting pretty, they're up on the hill. It's going to be tough for anyone to rotate on in using their, of course, just on foot. It's going to be so tough without the usage of that launch pad, without the usage of a car or a vehicle to get their way in. It's almost impossible to rotate in when you have teams like Informal and players that are up on the hill and already situated up on high. It is going to be tough for them, as Pump does seem to be, yeah, he's managed to get himself up with that reboot. And I think because they took that fight, because they got that elimination on the reboot van, that's almost given Pump a little bit of loot for himself. That's great.
Yeah, and you know what? It looks like Dramso's summer team, looks like they've also pulled a little bit of the llama play here. We got those chili peppers, so that's going to be big going in forward, especially if they're trying to retake that first place spot. That's going to be interesting to see how it really goes, though, as Riot's team, Common and Wave are still trying to rotate in. Doesn't look like they have really any teams they got to worry about during this rotate. If they can get a clean rotate in here, then that's going to make really well for them, because the one teams they really, really need to worry about looks like they're in an engagement right now. So they might get sprayed a little bit right now, but if they can still kind of keep themselves ahead, they're going to be totally fine. Now they got a lot playing for them right now, as they have a decent amount of ammo. They've got pads. They got a lot that they can do. They just got to make sure they stay together here, Miner. This is where it gets really important. All these teams stay together.
Yeah, this rotate seems really simple. Sort of to the naked eye, you almost see this as okay, they're just going to run their way in. They'll be fine. They don't need to build. What are they doing? Why are they building? But it's so crucial to make your way in without being seen, ideally without being tagged by any other teams, because all it takes is one shield crack, one wrong place of build, one wrong edit, and you and your team could get focused by the entire lobby, especially like teams like Informal's team right here, who have been situated in this area for some time. They're well cemented in this area. Their foundations are deep. They have their house. It's almost been built there for so long, and they are holding out this area. So they really want to make sure that they are trying to utilize this well and rotating in effectively, as we're seeing another team. And that's what I'm talking about. That is all it takes. One small crack of the shield can get so many eyes looking your way, and it'll be very tough for XCal and his team to come out from this, because look, it's a duo. It's unfortunate, and it is going to be an elimination right there for AG Bacon, who does actually take out the duo right there. That's really, really good from them. And now the zone, the half and half zone, pulls the opposite side for Ugly Baboon and Co.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for him. This is a tough haul, especially going on the side of that mountain right there. Now, if they utilize these pads, that might be best for him. Or if they wait to see if another team does, but it's going to be tough to make a rotate on foot here. You're going to have to find another way just because so many teams are already over there. I mean, look at that. We have a cluster of people all the way on the other side of the circle right now, and that's where it's going to be real tough for a team like this. But we also have a cluster of people that are all around them right outside of Corny. So if these people, one person is just bound to drop a pad. One person is bound to place that launch pad. So if one person does that, then it's going to help a lot of these teams. And it looks like Clutch's team was the team that decided to do that as they're moving forward. But it might not have been played the way they wanted as Clutch gets beamed out of the sky, only down to 64 HP. But he was able to still keep himself alive here, hopefully being able to stay alive for the latter of the time here right now as he's trying to get those heals off.
Yeah, you saw there the danger of using the launch pad, especially going for that high pad as well. It's almost impossible to rotate there without at least one of your teammates getting tagged up a little bit. As we see him fall, they're getting tagged up a lot. He is almost down in the air right there. As we're seeing Flucam Slam trying to pick up the pieces. It looks like they did manage to get Flucam Slam back up and running. So they are a full trio. I'm sure they will steamroll their way through this lobby. And a great elimination right there from Cloud. Almost a little 3-2-1 play from them on top of Korea right there. So fantastic elimination from them. As Flucam Slam and his trio going into this endgame with 4 eliminations played there, nearly going down. You saw in the bottom left of the screen, his HP looking a little bit lower, but we're seeing them back to normal. It was almost a little bit of a tough situation for them earlier as Cam Slam went down, but I think they're in their sort of home now. They're in their domain. They know this. They know how to play this. They're up on high, and they have eliminations.
Well, speaking of number 1 right now with Cam Sam, number 2, I was just seeing Summer was getting some eliminations in the elimination feed. So both these teams are still competing heavily to try and get that first place as Cam Slam is currently holding it right now with those 3 alive too. And on the leaderboard, you got to be careful in these games because that's not the team you want to come across. You know, you want to be able to avoid them as long as possible, unless you truly think you can take them out, because then that's also a team you'd want to take out fast because they are absolutely dominating right now. But we have other teams such as Taco's team. They're still chilling on the side of the zone. We have Conman, they're still alive too. Nerfus, Hydra. There's a lot of players that are still trying to make this end game, still trying to make something happen, as we just see Storm Surge, as we just saw the warning. Now it looks like these guys, Witch's team, is far below. They're going to really need to make something happen here because they do not want to get hit with Storm Surge.
Yeah, they really are, and it looks as though they're going for that high play almost. I think they decided, okay, maybe not. That's not the best play. They need to try and find some tags ASAP because there's so many teams that are going to be above. They're not going to be looking for tags, so they're going to have to try and find as many options for that as possible. If not, they will fall to the Storm Surge. It's one of the most annoying ways to fall in the game. It's really avoidable. You can take those earlier fights. You can take those earlier tags, and I think this is what's going to be crucial for this team as Wish and Yogs are now left as a duo. Can they find some Storm Surge, or can they not? Of course, they do have the assault rifle ammo to use to try and get some tags, but look at who they're trying to get tags on. It's Pum, it's Summer. I don't see Duran, though. It looks as though he might have gone down as Wish nearly goes down himself, getting sprayed, and that's the danger. That's the danger when you're going for these Storm Surge tags and these little sprays, because you could almost leave yourself open to getting sprayed themselves. 428 below, Bryce. So what are they going to do?
Wow, they got to really make something happen here because they're taking Surge fast. I mean, there's still 8 people that need to be eliminated. It looks like Wish is playing by himself right now, and he's taking Storm Surge at the same time. That's going to be tough, but Baboon goes down as Clutch is still in the game, but Flu, Cam Slam, Plague, and Bryce are all still alive on this leaderboard, but they don't have height, so they're going to be looking up to try and make some plays with height, but look how high above they are. Now we still have Summer Team soon, not on the height play. The top 2 teams right now really competing against each other, Miner.
Yeah, they are, but unfortunately for Summer and Co, he's only as a solo right now. It looks as though Pum and Durant have gone down, so this is an opportunity for Summer to clutch up. They do have 6 eliminations so far, so even if they do go down right now, it's not going to be an absolutely terrible game for them, but of course they will be wanting to try and hunt down the team in first, the Flucam Slam and Co. They really need to try and clutch up, and that's a great elimination from Summer right there onto Crackley. He might want to try and find that refresh, of course, with the 0 bills to his name. He has to try and find his way through these bills, using that harpoon to break that so quickly, and now we're seeing a new high ground team. It's Hero, Edan, and Dima. We're seeing these guys contesting the Steamy Sacks area a lot earlier on, so it could work out in their favor as Price there picks up another elimination. That's going to be great for that team to try and cement their way in the first place spot. Summer, though, on the receiving end of some shots, and he does go down to a Minish.
Oh, wow. Still a great game played by Summer, but Amina, Shaberta, and Cloud really looking forward to try and get forward into the zone as they got a lot of builds that aren't theirs around them. So it gets kind of tough in these end games as you're starting to have to break other people's builds. But we have some pre-edits getting thrown around as Bryce, Fusam, and Plague are still trying to make something happen, but Bryce goes down, but Flukam is still going heavy as him and Plague still can make something happen. But as I said, that Plague is taken down. Looks like it's going to be Flukam trying to make a little bit of a mega play here.
I like that. So he's using the Siphon. He attempted to use the Siphon to get the medkit play off, but it didn't quite work out in his favor. It was a very, very smart play from Flukam Sam right there, possibly showing his potential and his experience and his potential to be shown once again with a great elimination from Flukam Slam. Picks up the gold pump shotgun, gets another elimination. Can he get 3? He can't. It was so close. It was a great, valiant effort from Flukam Sam. That is not the best game for them, but it's also not the worst as we see Flukam Sam falling in the feed right there. It's Kyoto on low ground. It's Dom and Beast. Can they clutch up? There's still 4 teams remaining, including them. Jerome is still alive as well, so that team is still looking good. Oh no, can they do it? Flukam Sam does take out Bacon, though, of course, after he has been eliminated. It's high ground versus low ground. It's a 3v3.
Wow, and look at that. We have Heroes team on height right now. Another team that we've seen them compete a lot today, but we haven't seen them at this very end here. And I think they're really trying to show something. They're really trying to make something happen here. As Beast team and Kyoto's team, they're on the low ground right now, making it a 3v3 situation, but Eden goes down, so now it's a little bit of a 2v3. This is going to be interesting to see what happens as Demur is making sure he holds that height. Going to go for that medkit play, as he had the 90 health, which allows you to just get that medkit up just in time, as he's going to be waiting for that. But Dom, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of health plays going on, a lot of heal offs going on right now as Beast is trying to get the shots, but it's going to come down. It's really going to come down. Will Demur be able to keep this as he's taking the cabbages? This is going to be tough. It is a 2v1 situation, and he goes down as it looks like Eden's team was able to make it happen.
Yeah, it was the heal-offs all around right there. We saw floppers coming out, we saw medkits, and we saw some vegetables. We saw a nice variety of vegetables right there. We saw some cabbages coming out, sort of eating those. 11 cabbages to his name right there, which absolutely proved vital into getting that victory royale. Of course, getting those cabbages, being able to utilize the medkit there as well, going for the medkit play all the way up on height. We've seen 2 teams there, which we haven't seen too much from today, so a really great opportunity for them to climb the leaderboard.
Yeah, and you know, Prophet Warrior, that was a team we saw earlier making a lot of plays. Even though they didn't get that end game, they still had a decent 7 or 8 eliminations before they were taken down. Now we got Candle's team. Candle did a lot too. This was some teams that we saw really trying to make things happen. Summer's team coming in with still a decent game there. You know, they still are going to be high up on that leaderboard. Same with Bryce coming in with that 5th place. I think that's good enough to keep them as where they're in the spot that they want to be in. Teams that we love to see, you know, just absolutely dominating. But it was great finally seeing a new team for the change taking over this end game.
Yeah, it really was. You're absolutely right. It's Beast right there, of course, taking out there another player, but Dima, of course, coming out on top with his vegetables, his cabbages. He's staying healthy. He's eating his 5 a day all the way up on high. He's absolutely loving life, and of course, benefiting from getting the heals there, of course, as well. I'm so excited to see the leaderboard, but we can't quite get into that just yet. We're going to hop right into a break, so don't leave us. We're going to go right into the leaderboard.
set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. You can find out, you on timeout. You been dealing with the devil, where you sign at? Yeah, oh Lord, you getting financed. Me, I'm talking ownership, baby, that's where my mind at. Try that, yeah.
What is up, Fortnite fan? Welcome back to the PlayVS 4 High School Finals event number 3. I'm your host, Miniminer. Joined alongside me is, of course, unamused Bryson. We've had some incredible games today. We've seen 5 games of the finest Fortnite action. We've got the standings for you guys. We've got the leaderboard as to what is going on so far, who's going to be on top, and who's going to be climbing their way up the leaderboard, Bryson.
You know, it's still the same top 2. We got Flukam, Bryce, and Play holding that first position almost at 350 points with 349, but not too far below them is Pump, Summer, and Drantula at that 315. Now, they're going to have to make a little bit something happen here. Being 30, almost 35, actually exactly 35 points below, they're going to have to do something big here if they want to secure that first. But if Flukam does something big too, it's going to be pretty hard. But we still have some other teams coming up. Look, Taco's team, they're in that 9th place, a team we haven't really seen much of today until these last few games. They were really trying to make something happen. Bacon's team was in that 8th place. We still got a lot of people too in that top 20.
Yeah, we really do. Of course, getting into that top 20, we're seeing so many of the teams trying to clutch up right there as well. It's Rocket, of course, winning off spawn very, very well at the Steamy Stacks area. So a lot of battling going on in that whole area. They're sitting at 11th, but there's still plenty of potential for a lot of these teams to make their way into that top 15 because, of course, that is where the money is. Getting into that top 15 and especially into that top 10, that is what is crucial. That's what's so important. And making sure you can get into the placements of getting into the top 10, top 15 is going to be what these teams are going to be setting their sights for, because I think right now potentially the top 3 is out of the question.
Yeah, you know what? These top 3 teams, they have a really drastic, heavy amount of points above a lot of the other teams. But that doesn't mean some of these teams are in that top 25, top 20 position, still do not have a chance to make something happen and get in that top 15 and be able to walk home with a little bit of cash today. You just really got to come into this last game with a good mindset. I've said that so many times, but a lot of these people, they'll play this game and they'll start to do bad, and then they'll let that get to their head, and then it's just going to be even harder for them to get better, to do better. But if they really come in positive every single game, they're going to be able to make amazing things happen. And I think that's what we're going to see. I think there's a hefty chance that we're going to see some teams that we haven't really seen perform well today really make something happen in this last game.
Yeah, you mentioned it right there. The clutch potential, the comeback potential for a lot of these teams with the scoring format, of course, being elimination heavy. We do have 2 points per elimination today. So it's definitely potential for a big, high elimination, high placement game as well. But also we have to talk about the mentality and the consistency of the teams at the top. You know, it is a last game for them. It's a last game situation. For Flukam, Slam, and Sam & Co, these guys, they are up on top. But they're not up on top by a huge margin to where they are mathematically safe. You know, they are not safe. We're seeing Pump, Summer, and Duran. These guys have been so good at keeping that consistency so far today. They haven't quite had the best last game. I think they had a, what was it in the end? It was a 9th with 7 eliminations for them. So not their best game, but if they can pull it out of the bag in the last game, Flukam, Slam & Co, they're going to be a little bit shaky. So keeping it consistent for them, and they can, that's what's important for them. And we're going to find out what's going to happen with that going into game number 6, the ultimate game of this tournament today. It's going to be so exciting. Who's going to come out on top and who is going to be contesting for that first place spot?
Yeah, this is the game that really matters the most for a lot of these teams, as you know, a lot of these teams haven't been really able to perform much today, but they know that this is the game. This is the game where they got to make something happen if they want to be able to walk away with some money. You know, we're looking at Conman's team, they're already kind of right outside of Weeping. They're in that slipstream area. A lot of loot pool here. That's going to be a lot going on for them. They got a lot of stuff to be playing around with. But we still have Swirl's team. They haven't even fully gotten to the ground yet. They haven't dropped, which just shows how Fortnite, you're dropped. It's so random every game because you might be right on the ground right away and able to loot up, or you might take you a good 20-30 seconds before you're able to even do anything.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Of course, you know, making sure you can get that loot off spawn as quickly as possible is going to be so crucial in cementing yourself in your drops, for making sure you can command your last game drop, because, of course, getting eliminated off spawn at this final stage of the tournament is definitely not what you want. It's definitely not something that we're going to be seeing these teams trying to play for. You don't want to be playing for too many risky plays, as we see it's Informal going down early on, one of our first eliminated players in our final game, and it's really about making it to the end game, giving yourself the best chance for success. And Swirl right there from that chest is giving himself an even better chance of success, pulling a purple, an epic pump shotgun, a fantastic pull from that chest. So that's going to be really, really vital in helping them get their way into the end game here, but also winning that off spawn fight. We talked about it earlier, how much of a scare factor that weapon can have.
Yeah, you know what? Being able to pull that right off the bat in a game, that's going to really put you ahead of a lot of teams. Now, look at Aperta over here. He's carrying 2 ARs as he's trying to get some shots off, trying to get some of that Storm Surge, making sure that his team is ahead for this final game, as he's a little bit split from the guys right now. But I think they know that they're okay for the moment, as he's making his way back into this area, back into the little lake house area, as these guys are trying to recoup. They've already got a pad. He's about to grab a shotgun right here. They got a lot going on for them. As long as they stay together, they keep their health up, they keep themselves playing together. This is another team that I think could make a little bit of a comeback here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think a lot of these teams right now are a little bit more streetwise. They're a little bit more aware as to where these teams are landing. You know, we've had 5 games of the same lobby. Remember, it is a custom lobby. There's only one lobby for this. It's the same 33 teams going into the game every single game. So you sort of know where people are going to be landing, where people are going to be rotating. And I think that really impacts into the way that these teams loot. We're going to be seeing a lot of, well, we have seen a lot of adaptations to strategies, particularly drop spots. We've seen the battles of Stevie Stacks all going down. And even all the way over here at Pleasant Park, we've seen plenty of action as well. But now, though, we haven't seen too much action at Dirty Dogs too early on. As Informal goes down early on to the helm of Aperta right there, and it's a Minish who clutches up with that elimination early on. They've taken out 2 so far, Cloud, a Minish, and Aperta. These guys have been doing very, very well today. They've been popping off in the end games that they have been in, but unfortunately for them, they haven't been able to quite clutch up in the early game engagements, as Informal has gone down. It's Aperta going down there as well, so it's now a 2v2 situation. Informal there, or a Minish right there going down, and now it's Purz and Creo against a solo. It's Cloud who is the solo right there. They're going for the shakedown play, and yes, that's very, very smart right there from Cloud. He's thinking, okay, I've lost my teammate, I've lost both of my teammates. I think it's the best opportunity just to rotate on out, maybe take this truck. I don't know if he has a license to drive that truck, but I don't think he's gonna care. He's gonna go and he's gonna get out of there, because that's what's important.
Yeah, he's not caring much about what the law says right now, as he knows he needs to get away from this team, as they took out his other teammates fast, especially being a 2v2 situation. He's going to have to get away. He might be able to make a comeback and come back around and grab it, or he might just have to play the rest of this game as a solo and really try and get those placement points, because sometimes that's what matters most. You know, you really don't want to risk throwing your game if it means that you can get just a few extra placement points. We're looking at AOX's team, as they kind of got this whole little IO spot to themselves. And it looks like they're kind of making it into a base. They're just replacing the walls with brick, kind of hoping that they can base up here. We already see that legendary AR in the inventory, so that's going to be big playing on for shots later on, especially for Surge, and just getting those quick pads, because we know a gun like that is extremely accurate.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We talked about it before, how accurate that weapon can be. Of course, getting those Storm Surge tags, which is one way of getting Surge, but another way is fighting. We can see these teams right here. Crib Street right now and Prophet Warrior left as a duo, as we saw Prophet Warrior last game having to clutch up, trying to go for that reboot, but it didn't quite work out for him, as it looks as though they did clean up that fight right there. I think they did. They managed to clutch up some eliminations. Of course, Gleppo has gone down, so they are going to be able to find this reboot if they can. Yeah, they do get the finish. Prophet Warrior right there on Simon, and it looks as though Simon's trio has to rotate on out, because that is not a good situation for them. We're seeing that so often in this final game. Teams that maybe lose their off-spawn fight, they really don't want to risk taking a 1v2 or a 1v3 even, because it's the last game. It's the final opportunity to make something happen.
Yeah, and you know what? This is another team, like we showed last game. They haven't really done much until these past 2 games. We haven't seen much of him, so it looks like they're really trying to make something happen this game. They're going in for those eliminations, and luckily, while they're able to get 2 of them, they were also able to get their team member up. And now we're seeing some more with that combat pistol, another gun that really looks like it can really shred. It really reminds me a lot of the legendary and epic variant of the pistol, but it looks like their team is getting back. Oh no, they're taking out the AI. A little bit of a scare there, as I thought they were fighting, but no, they still got the spot to themselves. They still got a decent amount of loot. A lot going on for these guys. I'd love to see them really carry this on into the end game.
Yeah, really interesting as to why they did decide to eliminate that NPC there. Maybe they didn't want him to be there. Maybe he was being a bit annoying. They were getting in the way potentially. But I like that from them. You know, maybe utilizing the ability to get the ammo from that NPC. Of course, they do drop some light ammo when they are eliminated. So a very interesting strategy to get some light ammo, I must say. But there must be a reason behind it. There's a reason why these guys are playing in this, and I'm not, because they're the pros. They know what they're doing. We're seeing DJ Zed Fisher right now and Bludge right now trying to follow a team. I think they are aware of those teams that are the blue little sort of markers on the map. This is sort of rotating with them, trying to go in behind them because they really don't want to risk going in front and maybe taking this engagement, as it looks as though Crollo, FN, and Coda, this team, these guys are sitting a little bit further back in this corrupted area. We talked about it earlier. These areas as pinch points, and they're looking for this other team as a potential to try and find some Storm Surge tags.
Yeah, and you know what? Storm Surge is what plays really hefty into these end games, because like we saw in a few of the last games, especially during those rotating zones, the teams that didn't have the Storm Surge that they needed, they were kind of fighting there for their lives. The Storm Surge was really taking them out really quick, and they were trying to get those heals off, but also the Storm was closing in. There was just so much happening. You could tell these players were overwhelmed at the moment. That's just not a positioning you want to put yourself in. So just being able to make sure you're good on Storm Surge tags, stuff like that, that will ultimately put you in just a better spot. Now we're looking at Rocket's team, a team we saw earlier on today playing really well, but we've seen them have a few engagements later on that made it a little bit hard. It looks like they didn't go for that Steamy anymore that they were fighting at. Looks like they decided to change it up. They knew if they wanted to stay within that top 10, they're going to have to do something different. I think that's what they're doing. They're really trying to make something different happen here this game, as now they're right outside of Boney Burbs, just kind of hanging out looking for some Storm tags on Nerfus's team.
Yeah, I like this as well. We often see this where a team will base up just on one of these little IO bases, or even just a regular base, but we also see one of the teammates, one or two of them, opting for a bush strat, because one of them then will be holding their base and the other one will be going for the bush, maybe trying to find different angles to get those Storm Surge tags. And it's really interesting to see that, because I see it so often with competitive Fortnite, as we see in the air right now. Utilizing the slipstreams is Yogs, but he's taking some fire from plenty of other angles. It's Yogs, it's Turner, and it's Wish. These guys are on the receiving end of some hefty fire from the opposing team. And now, though, this is the danger of fighting next to these corrupted areas. These slipstreams can work in your favor, but it can also work against you, because now he's been landed on by 3 people. That full trio Yogs right now having to contend with, using those chug splashes nice and early to make sure he's up in good form and good HP, because this is an engagement now he's sort of being forced to take. He's sort of being forced into taking this engagement alongside his teammates, as Wish loses all of his shields. So does Yogs right now, as well as Wish does go down in the feed. It's Pump, and it's not Pump actually, it's Denzi right there. Pump does get elimination in the feed though as well, but it's down, and Yogs right there does go down. It's to the hands of Coda, who is on the receiving end of these shots. It's a great elimination for them. Can they clutch up and get the full trio? It's a full 3-piece. It's a fantastic elimination, a fantastic early game engagement for these guys to take. And look at them now. They're stacked. They've got everything they need.
Yeah, and you know what? These positions like that right outside, especially with the slipstreams, like you said, although they could be great at the end, they can also be really tough. It's really easy for teams to be able to take over height really quick, or just a lot can change within just a few seconds when you're fighting right outside of those areas, because it's such just a diverse spot, especially with all the different types of movement and everything like that. They're kind of getting back into Rocket's team, a team that, you know, we've seen kind of fall behind the past few games, and I think this is the game where they're really trying to, you know, put their point out there and trying to let people know that they're here and they're a good team, and they want to make sure that other people know that. But look who we got right there. We got Blue Cam Slam. Looks like he's trying to make a getaway. Looks like he might be by himself at the moment, as Plague is a little bit behind him, or he's trying to get over to Plague and make sure that they can stay together. Wondering if their other teammate Bryce has been taken out or not.
It looks as though he is still there. I can see him on the sort of left side of the screen, so they are safe for now. They are safe. They haven't got too much to worry about. I'm sure this must be a very stressful, very nerve-wracking game for them. Of course, sitting on top, it has its advantages. You sort of know they're not going to be dropping out of maybe that top 3 at the end of this game. I believe it's mathematically impossible for them to not even make money today. So, you know, they're in a decent situation, but they're winners. You know, a lot of these players, they're competitive. They want to win. They have that desire to come first, not only for that hefty cash prize. We talked about it earlier. It's a very, very nice amount of cash, but getting the bragging rights of coming first in one of these elusive tournaments is so crucial for them, and I'm sure they'll be so happy with how they are placed and how they're positioned. But this is a crucial moment. This is a moment where they have to be careful. They have to play it out. Of course, the Storm Surge is it might play a part to have a part to play in this game. Of course, there is 56 players alive. 6 people do need to go down before this Storm Surge threshold is negated and diminished. But it looks as though they're in a really good position. They're not making too many big plays, but as I say that, of course, we know what they're like. Flucam, Sam, Bryce, and Co. They're making the big plays. Of course they are. They're hopping in this team's box, using free edits as well. Fantastic shot from Bryce, but is it going to be enough for them to win this engagement? This is a crucial moment.
The hair flows from Bryce's character as he's really pushing in, trying to get those hefty shots. You know, a lot can go down as Flucam Slam takes out one of the other team members, making it a 3v2 situation. These guys are really trying to make something happen here to make sure they secure that spot. Like you said, great bragging rights, great able to grab that little chunk of change there. You know, this is just, they want this, and they're showing the lobby, they're showing the world that they are dominating the high school NA East region right now, and they want people to know that. And you know, it's awesome to see players like that really have that mindset on their shoulders and really go around looking for the shots. But it's going to be a little bit tougher right now, as even though they got those eliminations, we have Impact's team right on height, kind of just barreling down shots, getting some hefty ones too, as they've got a decent amount of ammo. And look at the Dune Miner, they're pushing in.
They're hopping in. His Plague that goes down. Now this could be disaster, though, for Flucam, Slam, and Co. They might just settle for this loot, or will they keep hunting them down? It looks as though they are going to settle for that loot. They did pick up a launch pad right there as well. An absolute disaster going into game number 6 for Bryce and Slam, and of course Plague. These guys are not... Wait, they're taking the L on them. We're seeing Impacts the other side taking the L on this team, but I think they'll be taking the L on the rest of the lobby if they do manage to come out on top here. It might be a premature emote from them, but I like that. I like that confidence, but I like the confidence from Bryce, Flucam Slam, and Plague right now. They're taking this game by aplomb right now. They're really going for these eliminations. They're going for it, and they're really, really being aggressive, which is what we've seen them do all day. It's very easy. It's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking, okay, we're in first. We just need to hold on, and they might not go for those eliminations, but that is what's crucially making them, sort of enabling them to get their way through the end games. They're getting those refreshes, and they're not changing it up for game number 6, which I really respect. I love that.
And you know what? It's not over for them either. They still have 2 people up, and they could easily go get Plague up right there, making this game still one of theirs to hold. But now we're kind of getting back over to Rocket's team, and like we talked about earlier, Rocket's team is one that, you know, they were struggling these past few games, but they're trying to make something happen going on here into this end game. They're all still alive, have full health. Looks like they have a decent amount of loot on them too, so they don't have too much they got to worry about. Going into that 3rd zone, we don't have to worry about Storm Surge right here. It's going to be the last Storm Surge that might come into a deciding factor for some of these teams. Looking over at Prophet Warrior in Gleppo's team, they are all not all still alive, as one of them is down, but they have a decent amount of loot, and they might be able to get somebody up. Now look who's creeping up on the reboot van. Miner, Bryce's team, the team of the hour. Will they be able to make something happen right here?
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very risky play, of course. They could very easily just play it out as a duo. They could just count the chickens and just think, okay, this is good. We're happy with this. We'll keep it ourselves as a duo. But no, this is not what this team are all about. They're not about sitting back, relaxing, enjoying being first. They want to take first place, and they want to do it in style, getting their teammate up. You said it. They can get Plague up, and they have. Not only are they able to get him up, they're also able to pick him up a little bit of loot here, but with a little bit of a focus from other teams. So I like the way that they're playing that. They've gone for that reboot, and this could be a defining moment for their game, Bryson.
Yeah, no, exactly. This could be huge for them, especially that they just got that guy back up. Having all 3 of them together, this is a team that the last thing you want to see is Flucam's team coming at you. This is a team that has just dominated every single fight they've gotten in, and everybody in here knows that. They know these guys are just taking over. But look at Rocket's team as Brax goes down. These guys are trying to build hefty as they're kind of getting focused right now. But DJ gets a shot taken on him from that automatic sniper. They got to be careful in this positioning as they keep themselves open, but you still want to protect yourself the best way possible, because it is easy to just get tagged just like that without even realizing it. But still, DJ, Fisher, and Bludge, they still got a lot they could do here as long as they play it carefully.
playing carefully, they did, until one of them did get beamed there with one of those automatic snipers. The damage output from those, especially when you're hitting those headshots, can be huge. Getting the Storm Surge tags as well is absolutely vital. You really can't bloom fight one of those automatic snipers. It has such a high damage output and a quick fire rate. It's almost impossible to do that now. The Dragon as a solo, we saw Rocket going down in the feed earlier on, gets easily wiped out, taken out, wiped on the floor from Dima, Straw Hat Hero, and Eden. Absolutely easy for them to take out that elimination. I thought that was really good from them, getting that elimination to try and identify that he's a solo, and, you know, edited him down, made it very easy for them, edited him into their own domain instead of trying to go for that sort of build fight, which is really good from them. Shows their great experience, utilizing the extra materials as well to build their way into zone, as Eden is doing that fantastically right now. Having to use a lot of brick, though. I don't know if there's going to be enough of a refresh back there for them to utilize and get themselves all the way back up to 500 of each material, but we're seeing them do pretty well so far, so I'm excited to see how they can clutch up in this end game. We're seeing Caroline, Nugget, and Co right now as well on the other end of the spectrum, who haven't got any eliminations themselves. Eden looking fantastic on the loop.
Yeah, you know what? They got a lot going on, but Eden still having those 2 eliminations still puts them up there. But now we're going over to Krolo's team, another team we haven't seen for a few games here, but a team that has shown that they know how to compete. They just might have had a little bit less luck than some of the other teams, and I think they're ready to show that. They're ready to show this this field that they know what they're doing. They got this pad kind of marked up right here, so knowing that when the next zone comes, they're going to be easily able to rotate, kind of holding that spot. Now it looks like Prophet Warriors team was able to get everybody back up again. They're getting in a quick bit of a box fight action with Impact's team. Could this be the end for one of these teams, or are they going to have to disengage here? I don't know, but this is going to be interesting to see exactly what they do here, because it looks like they're trying to get hide on Impact's team now. Impact needs to get his health back up, but they got to be careful. Almost goes in. Thought he was going in for a player right there, but it was actually one of his own players. But now looks like he's getting right in with the other team right there as they're pushing in on him, getting those box fight plays. He tries to get those edits. He's trying to hold that wall, but he wasn't able to grab it. So he decides he has to bounce back out. That's one thing about this game, Miner. You got to be watching. You got to make sure that you have everything around you, because the second somebody else gets it, you know, you can be thrown for a huge surprise, and that can take you out fast.
Yeah, for sure. Having that important aspect of the game, which is the awareness, making sure that you are aware of all of the buildings around you, of course, making sure that you have claimed as much as you possibly can as Gleppo, Prophet Warrior, and Crib Street right now. These guys we saw clutching up a little bit earlier on, particularly Prophet Warrior earlier on today, clutching up as a solo, so now they're a full trio. They're able to aggress this team and really be on the front foot, try and hunt them down, try and pick up this elimination as the shots exchange right now. Can they try and find some eliminations whilst there's pressure from all different angles? Being on the edge of zone, it has its advantages, but of course, there are plenty of teams that are looking at you, especially when you're trying to take these engagements in this latter stage of the game. They do have, of course, those chili chug splashes. They may have 2 stacks of those as well, which is really, really good from them. And they do have plenty of ammo to work with as well, with plenty of eliminations. I believe that was 9 eliminations for them right there. Unfortunately, though, the opposite end of the spectrum is Impact. With only 1 elimination, his team have been eliminated. Although Bacon and Jerome are right now as a solo. We haven't seen too much of these guys so far, but let's see if they can clutch.
Yeah, and you know what? Clutch is something I think they can do. These guys are impressive. We've seen them do some pretty crazy stuff today. Though it's, to say the least, I think they can clutch pretty easily, but they're going against a pretty hefty team right here. I mean, that's Heroes team. That's another team you do not want to be reckoned with. These guys know how to play too. Looks like they still have a decent amount of mats on both of them, so really it's just going to come down to what they do for this rotation. More than likely, they're probably going to use one of their pads right here, but another team just placed one, so now all they got to worry about is just reusing it, which is exactly what they're going to do. Just to be careful, though, on this side. Now, it's good for them to be able to rotate to the left here or rotate to the right on kind of the side of the hill. Makes it harder for them to get focused as we look at Eden's team. Getting focused a little bit hefty right there, but you're still able to come out of it with nothing taken off, as the rest of them now are just working on that tarp forward, trying to make sure they stay within the circle.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a tough rotate here for Bacon and Jerome, though, of course, because they are now one of the last teams to rotate into this half and half zone. You can see on the bottom right of your screen, almost all of the other teams have situated themselves inside of the zone already. As we see Pump right there getting an elimination in the feed already. So they're on the hunt. They're still alive. They're still healthy. They're still well, I think. So they're going into the end game with some eliminations as well, trying to capitalize on the down on it was Flukam, Sam's teammate, of course. So maybe they'll be able to get themselves a little bit of extra time to get more eliminations as Bacon Taken and Jerema have magically somehow made it into the zone. That was almost a miracle the way they made their way in there. But now the first moving zone reveals itself, and it is going to be a tough one for a lot of these teams. We see a nice drone shot here. We haven't seen anyone here right now commanding the high ground. I think because we saw it earlier, we saw one of the teams commanding high ground way too early. I think it worked out in their sort of disadvantage. So we haven't really seen anyone taking that high ground too early on, which is good. It's smart. I think it's clever, and it's important for them to make sure they can take it a little bit later on, especially for a team like Pump, Durant, and Summer. I think this is going to be the game where they really want to take height.
Yeah, you got to be careful taking height early, because when you're in those moments where people have nothing better to do other than just range shots at you, you don't really want to be stuck in that height position where somebody just takes it fast, because then people are going to start focusing you. But looks like they're taking a little bit of a height play right now, my man. Blue, Cam, Slam, Plague, and Bryce are looking like they want to dominate right now, as they're a little bit behind, but they're kind of moving forward. Now we also have Prophet Warrior also on height earlier on in the zone. This is another team that's really just been dominating the playfield just this last game. They're kind of showing that they're here and they're ready to make their mark. Maybe it was a little late, maybe it wasn't, but we're not going to know until we see these standings, until this game is officially over. But they're tarping ahead right now, making sure that they can do everything they can to get as many eliminations as possible. Already looking at that right now, they have a 13 elimination game just at the moment, Miner, and there's still 36 players left on the board.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, they're doing so good right now, because going into this game, they were in 28. They weren't really having the best day at all. So this is going to be such a good clutch from them if they can manage to make their way up the leaderboards and, of course, back up onto height as well. So a little short pad play right there could work out in their favor, of course, being able to take the height from that front side of zone, making sure to spray down at the teams that are contesting them. Anyone that's nearby doesn't want to go for that, or they don't want them to go for that high ground, of course, because they want to hold it for themselves. We see Summer in the feed getting another elimination. That's good for them as well. Prophet Warrior, Crip Street, these guys are looking very, very good all the way up on high ground. They still do have those some materials as well, and using that rapid fire, that legendary rapid fire SMG. We haven't seen too many people use this today, but it's such a powerful weapon for spraying down. You get a quick reload time, the damage output is very good as well, but more importantly, that pressure is going to be vital.
Yeah, a gun like that pressuring, especially with how fast it shoots, that really puts like something in people's head when they realize they hear that coming at them. They really try to scurry away and try and get out of it. But look at Gleppo going in, getting that box fight on Void, able to get those quick eliminations right there as he's able to put them. Wow, they are at a 15 elimination game right now. They are taking this one for the story right now with still 23 people left. There's so many more eliminations left for them to be able to get. If they can keep this going, Miner, if they can keep getting these eliminations, we could see over a 20 elimination game right here just for these guys for their final game.
Yeah, this is really, really great from them. They need to try and use as many of these eliminations to try and push themselves up the leaderboard, maybe even make themselves into that top 15 as well. But in the feed, I'm keeping an eye on it. It's Summer. He's getting so many eliminations in the feed. It's absolutely vital. Blue Cam Slam goes down. It's Plague going down as well in the feed. This could be the moment for Summer and Co to clutch up as a trio. I think they're all still alive. I think they're all healthy and well. They are. It's Pump, Durant, and Summer. They're in the mid-ground section of this. I think it's Blue Cam Slam's trio have gone down. So this is such a... The door is wide open, such a great opportunity for them. Can they walk through the door? Can they take it under their belt? Can they manage to clutch up and win this game? It's going to be an exciting one.
They're going to have to really do everything they can right now, but look at it as Prophet Warrior is trying to make himself back up to height. Him and Crispy Tree are still alive. We're looking at a 17 elimination game right now, seeing if they can get a few more right here as he's trying to take the height for himself. We got a few people up there right now, but we also have a few people at the bottom as we see Summer's team on the low ground, still trying to make stuff happen. Look at that as Kyoto tried to get in on them, but was not able to make anything avail. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get that pump to connect. Now we have Dom holding up the height right now as Prophet Warrior is trying to make himself up there. Dom does not want anybody else up there right now because he's weak. He does not have a lot of HP. The Prophet Warrior, fortunately for him, he has that pad and he has that fish and all that health, so he can kind of hang back in the storm a little bit. It's exactly what he's going to do as he goes in for another shot right here, but now he's going to try and go for that low ground as he's playing by himself.
Yeah, this is absolutely vital, but what we just saw there was Pump, Durantula, and Summer taking the high ground going into this endgame. This is absolutely vital for them. They are the only trio that is left alive right now. Can they profit on it? And they can profit on the elimination on Prophet Warrior right there. It's Eden and Hero who are down on low ground. One gets down. It's Eden going down. Durantula getting the elimination on him, and they win the game. That has changed things massively. That's absolutely huge. That's an 18 elimination game for Pump, Durant, and Summer. What an incredible incredible game for them. That is almost all they can do to push themselves close to the top spot right here. With Flukam, Slam, and Co going down earlier on, is that going to be enough? I don't know.
Wow, and you think about it, Summer's team and Profit's team both had almost 40 eliminations within the whole lobby. That's literally close to half the lobby. They did so well, but we're looking at a team like Eden right here as they got some earlier shots off in the game. A team that they were able to still get that second place, and that's still a great spot to be in. But it's still crazy to just think about, we had Bryce, Flukim, Slam, Plague. Were they able to do enough to keep themselves in that first place positioning? Or did Summer be able to get that? And then look at Profit, Warrior, and Crispy Tree. They definitely put themselves, at least, they're competing. They're close to getting that money. They're close in that money. It's going to be interesting to see where they are finally in those standings, as they really got a hefty end game right here. As Profit Warrior kind of went off. Got a lot of eliminations there fragging out, but Summer's team ultimately coming out with that victory royale.
Yeah, that is going to be so crucial for them. Is it going to be enough, though? They had 18 eliminations going into that. I mean, it's going to be close. It's definitely going to be very close. We saw Flukam, Slam, and Co. They were cementing themselves on the high ground, on the first place spot. They were there the whole day. I'm pretty sure we haven't seen anyone take over that first place spot since the beginning. They've been dominating since the beginning. They've absolutely popped off. But is it going to be enough for their team? Of course, Pump Duran and Summer coming out on top. Is it going to be enough? 18 eliminations. I thought the way they took height right there, that was very, very impressive. Taking it a little bit later on, Bryson, it really proved to work out for them.
Oh yeah, beautiful plays. They waited for the right exact moment. They took it. They knew that this was the time, and they knew not to do it any earlier, and they knew not to do it any later. And that's where you see a lot of these smarter players. That's where it really differentiates some of the players that, they might be mechanically good, but do they have that right mindset? Do they have that right headspace? And when they're going into these games, and do they know how to play these games smart? But let's get into the standings, because I'm ready to see exactly who's on top right now. Did Flukam keep it? And drumroll, Summer was able to take the first place.
No way. The 18 elimination victory royale was enough. They've done it. How on earth have they managed to do that? They've clutched up. It wasn't by too much. How many points is that? Is that 12 points ahead of the second place team? Flukam, Slam, Bryce, and Plague. They fell. Our kings, our dominators throughout the whole game. They couldn't hold on because at the helm was Pump, Summer, and Durant. They needed that victory royale to push them up to the top spot. But of course, very, very well done from them. They have managed to come out on top. Can't forget about the other teams lower down, though. We have Hero, of course, as well. Eden, they managed to clutch up a little bit there as well, getting a second with 4 eliminations. So very well done from them, moving into that top 5. Plenty more names on the screen as well, Bryson.
Yeah, and you know what? It's really cool to see some of these people that still really competed. You have Taco's team where earlier on, you really didn't see much of them, but they were able to still secure that top 10. But we even have some of this top 20. It looks like Profit Warriors team was still just a little bit behind of what they needed, but still they made a hefty comeback, coming from seeing where they were before the last game and seeing how they played that last game. The top 15th place was Proxy's team, the last people that were able to make money. But either way, every single team that played today should be proud of what they did, because they all did a phenomenal job. They all made it to the finals. And you know what? That itself is a really cool feat that you're able to say you did.
Yeah, absolutely. As we talked about before, the bragging rights of, placing in one of these high tier lobbies. Of course, some fantastic plays from a lot of these teams, and some really, really great high takes, some low ground takes, of course, as well. But of course, if you're watching today and you're thinking, okay, I want to get involved with something like that, there is, of course, enrollments available for you if you are eligible. The first enrollments, of course, open on the 15th of November. They then close on the 7th of December. So if you do want to take part in something like this, make sure you enroll your trio and yourself into that to make sure you can solidify your spot in potentially the semis and the qualifiers going into the finals. It's going to be great. The finals are on the 17th of December, so make sure to enroll yourself. But from us here today, have you got any final words to say, Bryson, before we end here?
And you know what? I just want to say congrats to everybody that played today. You all guys played your hearts out, and it was an awesome game. Awesome 6 games to see. Props to PlayVS for really taking over the high school and collegiate esports league. Either way, Minnie, I had a great time, and I hope you did too.
Yeah, I had an absolute blast today, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys watching. Thank you to everyone for watching today, and what an incredible day today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.